Chapter 381, Fishing, the King of Figures Sneak Attacks. Axis's eyes brightened at the idea. Rather than hunt Trazyn the Infinite across the galaxy, it would be far better to make the Collector come to him. What did Trazyn crave? Rare, strange, powerful curios. Axis had those in abundance, most importantly, the Gene Seed Primarch, and above all, Axis himself. He was irresistible bait for a Necron Collector. Axis, we can do this, Kasha said. The ship recorded your recent battle. We can broadcast the footage over the Necron comm band. Trazyn's personality makes it certain he'll respond to this. Then we just wait for him to bite. Axis nodded. The plan made sense. His wife Kasha and another Kasha, the one from the 40K timeline, smiled and high-fived. Axis pulled the surveillance footage from the ship, processed it, and sent it out through the Necron comm device before him. It was a full-band, unencrypted broadcast. Any Necron overlord who intercepted the signal could watch. The recording raced outward at relativistic speeds and reached thousands of light-years in moments. Nearly every Necron overlord within that radius received the transmission. What they saw was shocking. An ordinary human wielding power on par with a cosmic star god, destroying fleets, obliterating ships, contending single-handedly with a Necron armada. The overlords who witnessed it were alarmed and puzzled. Most of the space Necrons dismissed it. There were internal matters that took precedence, but two overlords took interest. One was Anrakir the Traveler. The other was the notorious Collector, Trazyn the Infinite. Anrakir noticed because the battle's location was the tomb world of Zarathustra of the Mefrit dynasty, a world he had recently left. Having just stripped a tenth of another dynasty's assets and forces, he felt an obligation, part principle, part concern, to come to Zarathustra's aid when its tomb world was threatened. He ordered his ship turned back and headed for the system. Trazyn saw the footage differently. Watching Axis's combat style, he mused aloud. Various energy attacks. This wasn't the compressed space signature of a typical star god fragment. It felt like the power of the physical universe. Could this universe have spawned another cosmic star god? Such a specimen would be a perfect addition to his collection. He decided immediately. A clone would be sent to seize the prize. Trazyn never traveled in his true form. He left his real self sealed within his tomb world and sent out avatars, clones or bodies commandeered by his data essence. It was the way of a galactic thief, and the reason his name inspired both fear and hatred among the Necrons. 2 months later, a massive fleet arrived in the region where Axis and his fleet hovered at the edge of the Hades Gate system. The ship's sensors screamed the alert. Detecting large-scale hyperspace jump. Energy signature confirmed. Necron fleet, massive. Lead flagship identified as the Eternal Wanderer. It's Anrakir the Traveler. Outside the viewport, the void tore open with green, otherworldly lights. Necron vessels, bizarre and angular, poured out of hyperspace like tombs come to life. The Eternal Wanderer, a pyramid-shaped flagship, hung like a star of death. As expected, he came, Axis said from the bridge, arms folded. Not the Collector we hoped for, but it's fine. Sanguinius, I'll handle this. Kasha, you two stay in command and cover anything unexpected. Sanguinius folded his great wings and nodded. Have fun, Axis. I'll watch your back. Axis didn't wait. A golden chi flared around him like a supernova, and he surged into a Super Saiyan-like state. In an instant, he became a comet of molten light, tearing into the densest part of the Necron fleet. His movement left afterimages in the void. The Necron auto-targeters couldn't keep up. Their gas flare beams, deadly enough to vaporize Space Marine armor, washed over him and were swallowed by the solid golden barrier of his ki as if it were snow on flame. Destroy him! Anrakir's voice was cold through the net. A Necron destroyer charged its main cannon and fired a sickly green beam, a lance designed to punch through asteroids. Axis met it with a single open palm. A golden qigong wave, thicker than his body, roared out and collided with the beam. The qigong didn't simply deflect. It drilled through the Necron beam like a hot iron through butter, consumed it, and kept going. It slammed into the destroyer's bow with the force of a planetfall. Necron alloy that could shrug off most weapons sheared and vaporized. The ship's bow became a 100-meter hole. The core detonated. The destroyer fractured into a brief, eerie green fireball, and metal fragments rained outward. Axis moved through the fleet like a golden reaper. Each punch opened tearing winds that shredded smaller scythe ships. Each kick sent shockwaves that pulverized shields and hulls. Necron vessels fell like toys before him. Where he passed, silence and twisted metal told the tale. On the Eternal Wanderer, the green lights in Anrakir's eye sockets pulsed with a new intensity. He had misjudged this human. This was no ordinary foe. He would bring out his trump cards. "Activate the Cage of Star Prison. Release the Shadow of Gluttony," he ordered. Deep within the flagship, a metal cage unfurled, and an amorphous shadow poured out. An energy thing, constantly shifting, sometimes like a churning nebula, sometimes like a hungry maw. At its core, a light throbbed as if it were a beating heart that devoured light and heat. It was a fragment of a star god, one of those cosmic entities Axis had faced before, so he knew how to meet it. Axis met it with a powerful punch. Space itself seemed to buckle under the impact. Golden, destructive energy slammed into the devouring shadow, and shockwaves tore spherically through the battlefield, shearing unlucky nearby ships into streaming particles. The star god fragment uttered a mental scream as part of its shadow torrent scattered, its form destabilized. Axis held back a touch, letting it seem that the combat was a battle of equals. As Axis grappled with the fragment, the true ambush struck from the dark. Almost imperceptible, a phase energy beam, distorting light like a heat shimmer, fired silently toward him. It was a binding beam, and at the same instant, Trazin's clone engaged a time stasis trap. A warped temporal field tried to freeze the flow of time around Axis, slowing him to a crawl. Even if only for a fraction of a second, it would be enough for the beam to lock on and capture him. A smile curved Axis's lips. The fish had taken the bait. Chapter 382, Mafengbo Captures People, Rich Collection, robs the King of Collectibles. Just as the time field began to take effect and the phase beam was about to strike Axis's back, at that critical instant, a cold, mocking curl appeared at the corner of Axis's mouth. "I've been waiting for you, Collector. Or should I say, Handband King." The faint golden aura on Axis's body suddenly flared green with an intensity greater than when he'd fought the Star God fragment. His height surged to 3.5 meters, his hair exploded into green, his eyes went white as his pupils vanished, and an immensely ferocious aura radiated from him. Axis activated Legendary Super Saiyan. For him, normal Super Saiyan, Legendary Super Saiyan, and Super Saiyan 4 were the most energy-efficient modes. Super Saiyan God could be held indefinitely without burden, but in outright combat, Axis preferred Legendary Super Saiyan. His power peaked and ki poured out of him as if endless. "Ha! Ha!" A short, terrifying roar erupted from Axis, a solidified golden wave of sound mixed with violent ki, like a supernova shockwave, blasting outward. The strange time stasis field of the trap shattered like glass under the impact of that life-filled, destructive will. The phase teleportation beam was simultaneously dispersed and annihilated by the torrent of energy. Time-based tech might hold a great demon or a gene seed Primarch, but it had no effect on Axis. The power of a god defied mortal devices. Space Necrons may have encountered gods born of the physical universe, but Axis had transcended the physical, mental, and soul levels all at once. He simply could not be contained. Axis vanished in the exploding golden light. His speed was incredible. A moment later, he appeared above the Necron submersible, disguised as debris. Trazin the Infinite watched in disbelief. He had never expected this opponent's strength. This life form had broken free of the time-space restraint. The traveler Arakiel, hiding aboard his own ship, saw everything and began to retract his Star God fragment weapon, narrowing his eyes. "Found you." Axis's voice cut like a death sentence. His right foot, wreathed in golden aura, stomped with the force of a planet-shattering impact. Boom! The sturdy Necron submersible twisted, buckled, and exploded as if hit by a meteor. Instruments and Trazin's clone spilled into the cold void. The ghostly light in the clone's eyes flickered wildly with horror. Without hesitation, the clone initiated self-destruct while desperately trying to upload core data back to the tomb world where its main body resided. This target was far more troublesome than Trazin had expected. But it didn't matter. As the galaxy's greatest collector and curator, Trazin had patience in abundance. He could try again and again. His opponent couldn't. Axis sneered, opening the 5 fingers of his left hand and pointing them at the clone attempting to self-destruct. Trying to run? Evil containment wave. A swirling vortex of energy formed, sucking with a terrifying force. This was not an attack, but a seal. Trajan's data stream and the self-destructing energy were caught as if by an invisible giant hand, forcibly dragged and compressed into a specially prepared sealing bottle in Axis's palm. It was a technique Axis had developed after mastering divine power, using his godly perception of ki and pure energy to cast seals. Space Necrons were said to have no souls. Axis thought that wasn't entirely true. Their souls had been mostly consumed by the cosmic star god, leaving faint remnants. Otherwise, Trajan would have no main body. Each clone would be original. The bottle trembled violently, ghostly green light fracturing inside, but golden runes flowing on the glass held the captive firmly. Axis weighed the bottle and watched the fragments of Trajan's consciousness struggling like a trapped beast, and a victorious smile creased his face. "Now, take me to your treasure vault as a guest, Infinite One. There's something in your collection I want." "How is this possible? What kind of technology is this? Who are you? Why can you capture me like this? This is unscientific. I am just a piece of data. I can return at any time. My losses don't affect my main body." Trajan, sealed in the bottle, ranted. The energy used on him was unknown, and the sealing method even more so. How could the laws of physics be bent to lock him inside a small vessel? "There's a lot you don't know, Handband King. Are you going to take me to your museum willingly, or do I have to make you?" Axis asked, rattling the bottle. Aboard the flagship Eternal Wanderer, Anrakil watched the scene unfold. He had seen Axis's overwhelming power, the destruction of the Star God fragment, Trajan's attack and capture. For the first time, his cold logical core raised the instruction: retreat. This human, no, this being, was a catastrophe far worse than a Star God fragment. He initiated emergency hyperspace jump procedures. The Necron fleet, under Axis's cold gaze, tore through space to flee the sector that had become a purgatory. Axis hovered among Necron wreckage, the sealing bottle glowing faintly in his hand. As the Necron fleet attempted to escape, he laughed coldly, conjured a massive green energy orb in his palm, and hurled it. The sphere destabilized their ships as it expanded, engulfing them in an instant. In Erekil's disbelieving eyes, his decades-built fleet was annihilated by a casual throw. There is no escape before a legendary Super Saiyan. They all must die. After finishing off the remnants of the fleet, Axis returned to his ship. "Axis, you're as powerful as ever. How do you plan to find the Space Necron's lair?" Sanguinius asked as he arrived. Axis smiled and set the sealing bottle on the deck. Through the bottle, Trajan's voice wailed, desperate. "Sir, take what you want, but don't touch my collectibles. Please. I'm not a robber. I exchange for most of my pieces." He didn't know Axis as well as Axis knew him. In the transmigrator community and among Warhammer veterans, Trajan's nature was well known: a thief, collector, and consummate opportunist. Axis had no illusions. "I don't plan to reason much. Once you're in my hands, your fate is sealed." Axis dropped out of legendary Super Saiyan, and his body flared pink as he became Super Saiyan God. In that form, his perception was terrifying. Hidden entities, the Dark King existing neither in the real universe nor the warp, even an unborn Eldar death god, could be ferreted out. Locating Trajan's pocket universe took only a moment. Axis smiled faintly, and following that aura link, teleported his ship. He ripped a rift with divine power and entered the pocket universe. Pocket universes were incomplete, unstable fragments torn from the main universe at birth, sometimes no larger than a city, never larger than a star system. The Necrons had tech to create them in reality's cracks, but they were dangerous. A misstep could cause a pocket universe to collapse into a black hole. Inside, Axis found a gigantic tomb world the size of a planet, a green metallic world, Trajan the Infinite's lair. He went straight to the main control chamber, and with a violent demonic windwave, sealed the Necron overlord's main body. He spent time eliminating the guards throughout the tomb world. Trajan had been overconfident. His museum lacked a strict guard force. The tomb world was filled with collectibles rather than soldiers. Rumors that during the Cadia War, Trajan had released a custodian, a squad of Great Crusade Ultramarines, Inquisitor Greyfax, and other Imperial forces to stall Abaddon were not the highest of his collectibles. They were the low-grade stuff he cleared out when inventory overfilled. Trajan finally understood he had provoked someone he could not afford to anger. "All right, Now all your collectibles are mine, completely mine, Axis said with a wicked grin. Robbing the richest collector in the galaxy was an exquisite satisfaction. Trajan's hoard was unique and priceless. No, please, take what you want, but don't touch my collections. Don't! Trajan wailed inside the bottle, pained. Even without a full soul, he felt a loss that cut deep. Don't worry, I won't leave anything for you. Prolonged pain is worse than short pain. I'll make you feel the ultimate pain, Axis said with a devilish smile. No thief! Despicable thief, Trajan cursed. Flattery is appreciated, but next to you I'm still an amateur thief. I have much to learn, Axis teased. Axis, Sanguinius, and two Kashas toured Trajan's museum. The displays were overwhelmingly lavish, a prismatic rare earth gallery, artifacts from every major galactic event, creatures in stasis, orcs, humans, Tyranids, unknown Xenos, even Eldar, and chaos demons. There were cloned gene seed Primarchs, Fulgrim loyal to the Imperium, Lorgar Vulcan, sold by the notorious old Chinese doctor, an ancient Krog orc whose combat prowess equaled a gene seed Primarch, the exact moment of Vandire's beheading, Sebastian Thor's skull, a star god fragment, legionnaires from the Horus Heresy, the Lost Tanith Legion, Vostroyan Firstborn regiments, a damaged but functional webway portal, an Eldar clown troop, a clone of Phoenix Lord Arcanon, combat repair units, Adepta Sororitas units from the Age of Apostasy who called themselves Imperial Brides. The items were dazzling. Axis made no pretense. He began packing them up. But not into a mundane ship. He opened a passage to another universe. He intended to bring Trajan's collections to his own world. That world had seen too much tragedy. Living things should be taken elsewhere, and so should inanimate relics. He ripped a spatial rift linking to another holy terra. On the other side, Geneseed Primarch Magnus and Regent Guilliman, stationed there, received Axis's notification. They immediately arranged custodians and Geneseed descendants to help move the horde. Axis, you've outdone yourself. We were looking for this one. Didn't expect you'd already deal with him on our side, Magnus said. Trajan's cunning wasn't enough. Help move things first. There's too much to catalog alone, Axis replied. He'd just seen an Iron Men Legion, multiple dreadnought models, and many items he didn't yet recognize. Long time no see, Sanguinius, and the two Kashas, Guilliman greeted. The Kasha at Axis's side nodded. His wife smiled. Stop admiring and help. The portal won't hold long, 24 hours at most. Move quickly, Axis ordered. No problem, we're on it. Custodians, Ultramarines, and Thousand Suns troops streamed into Trajan's domain and began hauling treasures away. One by one, his artifacts were removed, plundered. Trajan's cries from the bottle pierced the control chamber. Ah! Kill me! Kill me! No! That's mine! Don't touch it! Careful! Don't drop it! It's precious, he sobbed, helpless. Axis's voice was cold. I won't leave you anything. This will be short and absolute. I'll make you feel the full extent. No, thief, Trajan's voice cried. Thank you for the compliment, but you're still the grandmaster of pilferers compared to me, Axis replied, provoking him. Over the first day, only 1/10 of the collection was moved. Axis rested for 2 days, then opened the portal again, and continued the purge. Chapter 383, The Second Golden Throne, The Truth of the World, and the Galaxy Laboratory. The relocation took a full year. Axis had to open the portal again and again, each time draining nearly all his divine power and then recovering slowly. He discovered that for Saiyans, this turned out to be a form of training. After becoming a god, Axis had rarely needed to expend his divine power. He had never consumed more than half of it, except when maintaining a portal for 24 hours straight, which would empty him completely. Saiyan physiology was peculiar. Whenever their bodies were pushed to exhaustion and then allowed to recover, their power level would increase. In that sense, keeping the portal open was excellent exercise. At first, Axis could only sustain the portal for 24 hours. After repeating the process more than 10 times, he pushed that limit to over 30 hours. The improvement was enormous. He had found a new method of cultivation. Even though his power had not increased much immediately after becoming a god, this ritual of total depletion and recovery produced real growth. Saiyans were relentless. If you didn't keep pressing yourself to the edge, you didn't evolve. Once you stopped, you stagnated. Constant strain was what drove a Saiyan's bloodline to ascend. The Imperial onlookers could only call Axis a pervert for his training method. Axis, how strong do you want to become before you're satisfied? You're really doing your cultivation by opening portals? Sanguinius asked, half exasperated, after another day of hauling artifacts. He had watched Axis change up close over the year and never expected keeping an inter-universe gate open could be so effective. Becoming stronger is as natural to a Scion as eating or enjoying oneself, Axis answered. He stood, steadied himself, and continued. As long as a Scion lives, he will pursue power and further advancement. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll keep training until I can't find any more ways to improve, until I've reached the limit. Originally, Axis had estimated the move would take 3 or 4 months. Finding this cultivation method made him change his mind. It was too good not to exploit, so the transfer was delayed. He also discovered Trazyn was not honest. This was only one of the collector's bases. As with most cautious hoarders, the Necron Overlord had many caches spread across the galaxy. Axis tracked them down and emptied them. Among the finds were countless Old One artifacts, relics from the War in Heaven. One item left Axis speechless, a golden throne, the original device the Old Ones used to carve the webway and control it. Humanity's imperial golden throne had been altered in the Dark Age of technology and later modified by the Dark Eldar, warped toward torture and other grotesque functions. This Old One prototype was far simpler. It amplified psychic power and used that power to cut a passage between warp and reality, linking one passage to another. It was a webway carving machine in its rawest form. Axis, what are you going to do with the golden throne we found? Sanguinius asked, helping Axis sit and supporting him when his legs trembled. The discovery gave Sanguinius a deeper sense of just how extraordinary Trazyn's collection was. Somehow, during the War in Heaven, Trazyn had acquired this device. The Necrons, however, were a race hostile to psychic influence. Their transformations had rendered them immune to psychic effects. Even if they possessed the throne, they wouldn't have used it. They kept it as a trophy. Axis had just maintained the portal for 31 hours and had broken another limit. The price was near total exhaustion. He could barely stand. With Spirit Tree fruit, he would need 5 or 6 days to recover. Of course we'll bring it back, Axis said. If Trazyn here had one in this universe, then the Trazyn of ours likely has one too. It's invaluable. It amplifies psychic power and carves the webway. If Magnus sits on it, if Magnus can operate it, he could carve a webway realm. This is a prototype, untouched by later modifications. If we could understand its mechanics fully, humanity could make its own webway carving technology. Sanguinius nodded slowly. All right, but Axis, don't forget how powerful the Old Ones were. Sitting in the Golden Throne requires very high qualifications, at least someone of Magnus's level or father's. He spread his hands. The Old Ones carved a webway spanning the whole galaxy. That was like creating another universe. Trazyn, sealed in a bottle by Axis, bristled at the reminder of his losses. In this past year, he had suffered a brutal robbery. Almost all his collections had been claimed by these two. Yet he still tried to assert Necron superiority. Actually, our race is the more perfect one. We were the ultimate victors of the War in Heaven. Even the cosmic star gods who allied with us were defeated by our forces, shattered into fragments and imprisoned. You truly won? Axis said. He was curious. I'm puzzled. In the War in Heaven, the Old Ones seemed to crush you. You had no power to resist. Then when the cosmic star gods joined, you suddenly turned the tide and won. That doesn't quite add up. Axis's curiosity stemmed from how precious and strange the webway was, and how impossible it seemed that a race capable of carving a whole alternate network could be completely exterminated by the Necrons and those cosmic entities. The Necrons' tech had indeed reached the heights of the physical universe. Hyperspace engines, stellar energy extraction, even local manipulation of black holes. Yet some accounts suggested human civilizations during the Dark Age of technology had nearly matched Necron capabilities, and the cosmic star god's fragments seemed no stronger than a Super Saiyan. From Axis's own fights with a few of their pieces, he had concluded that even a full physical cosmic star god would struggle against a Super Saiyan 2 or 3. So it seemed unlikely that the Old Ones had been simply overrun by a Necron cosmic alliance. What do you mean? Trazyn snapped. Exactly what it sounds like, Axis said. I suspect you weren't the true victors. Maybe the old ones went into hiding. Back then, their influence reached beyond the galaxy while you were still confined to it. The war in heaven might have been local. At worst, it touched the galaxy's edges, but it didn't shatter the universe. The Tyranids came from outside and devoured star systems before entering our galaxy. If the war had truly broken the entire universe, such external invaders wouldn't exist. Trazin's electronic eyes flickered as Axis spoke. He knew the old stories. Axis was connecting dots most preferred to leave separate. Axis went on. Think about it. If our galaxy were a grain of sand on Earth, the amount of sand on Earth wouldn't begin to represent the stars we've found. The celestial orrery sounds amazing, detonating the stars of a galaxy, but its wind-up time is too long. Destroying every star in a galaxy isn't that grand. It's basic for a civilization at levels 3 or 4. The inhabitants of Warhammer are eccentric, modern planes with ancient armor and primitive weapons. Necrons are the only ones who make sense technologically, but even their civilization has stagnated. The technological level of the galaxy has stalled. Species that reach their peak, the old ones, the Necrons, the Eldar, humanity, seem to decline afterward, becoming half-dead shadows of themselves. He paused, staring at the idea. It feels like this place is an experimental ground created by someone else. I'm a Super Saiyan. Even at full power, I can destroy a few star systems at most. I can cause cosmic-level disruptions, traverse universes perhaps, but not annihilate the universe. That makes me think something is manipulating development here. Sanguinius leaned forward. Have you discovered something specific? Trazin, for once, was silent and curious. Axis continued. Consider the Tau. 10,000 years from now in this universe, they were primitive at the start of the Great Crusade, barely out of the Stone Age, and yet, in a few thousand years, they became spacefaring and advanced rapidly. The Radan existed once. Had we not wiped them out, they might have developed to the level of humanity's dark age of technology. The Tau were similar. If they'd been allowed to mature, they would have reached great power. But inevitably, after reaching a peak, something happens. An event, rebellion, catastrophe that sends them into decline, or they fight another race and fall, much like the old ones allegedly did. He spoke of the technological stagnation paradox, the sense that civilizations in this galaxy once apexed always slide into decay. The Beast Arises series had hinted at a design behind things. Civilizations were nudged into conflict or pushed off the path. Axis suspected design. I think you're overthinking, Trazin said finally. What you're suggesting is extreme. Who would do such a thing? Even the Chaos Gods would be controlled by them. I can't imagine a race that would manipulate so thoroughly. Axis raised an eyebrow. What kind of race do you think the old ones were? When they were dominant in the galaxy, did Chaos Gods even exist? According to older lore, the early warp had been purer, an energy of mostly positive influence. Axis knew this through his own purification of chi. The evidence suggested the warp had been shaped and guided by the old ones so that other races would discover it. Even the war between the old ones and the Necrons might have been precipitated by an unseen influence. There's a problem here, Axis said. I heard that originally the cosmic star gods were formless energy beings that fed on starlight and other cosmic radiation. You shaped them, created bodies for them from living metal. Is that true? Trazin hesitated. You seem to know a lot about events 60 million years ago. Yes, some things are true. We fashioned shells of living metal so those beings could act in the physical universe. So the cosmic star gods were life forms you created? Axis mused. What if the warp itself was fostered by the old ones? What if the chaos gods, even the Dark King, were life forms created by that race? He let the idea hang. Both Sanguinius and Trazin looked stunned. It sounded absurd. Yet the galaxy's oddities made the possibility plausible enough to chill them. Trazin's optics blinked, running calculations. I won't deny it outright, Trazin said slowly. But you have no proof. It's speculation. It's speculation, Axis agreed. But look at the power relationships. These warp deities are treated like cosmic titans, but they quarrel like children. I don't see them as the creators of order. They feel small compared to the roles assigned to them. Sanguinius changed the subject. What about the Tyranid? If this galaxy is an experimental ground, how do you explain them? Axis smiled grimly. The Tyranids are proof. Which life form in this universe is best at producing strange adaptive organisms? The Tyranids, organisms of endless mutation, are in some ways like the orcs. I suspect they were introduced to this system deliberately to stimulate warfare and wipe clean the stage so other designs can take hold. They arrived to ignite violence and consume worlds. The orcs spread conflict in a different way. Both served to keep the galaxy in a constant state of war. Sanguinius and Trazyn both fell silent, the implication heavy in the air. Axis's theory, whether true or not, cast the galaxy's endless cycle of conflict in a darker, more deliberate light, one that made the war in heaven look less like a historical inevitability and more like a single, manipulated experiment in a laboratory the size of a galaxy. Chapter 384, The Emperor's Verification, the Time of the Birth of the Evil God. Axis's words landed like a hammer blow. What he proposed sounded disturbingly plausible. Tyranids and orcs shared too many similarities. Both seemed to be born for war. Orcs were pure fighters. Tyranids were ruthlessly efficient, designed to strip flesh and organic matter, devouring everything in their path. Axis, if what you say is true, then the Tyranids really could be engineered, Sanguinius said. But how do you explain the fact that wherever the Tyranids go, nothing is left? They obliterate an entire planet's ecosystem. If the Tyranids were an experimental species intended to wage war on a galactic scale, complete annihilation seemed excessive. Destroying life should be sufficient. You haven't looked deeply into Tyranid reports, or you haven't read the Mechanicus archives carefully, Axis replied with a faint smile. Official data from before his cross-universal travel showed that worlds visited by Tyranids were indeed barren, but not unrepairably so. While topsoil was stripped and surface life eliminated, recovery was possible. Belisarius Cawl had studied such worlds in detail and found that reintroducing organic matter to the soil could restore them. Cawl even proposed, and the Geneseed Primarch approved, a program to rehabilitate some of the planets the Tyranids had visited, revitalizing them for human habitation. The Old Ones, for their part, were far more capable of such environmental engineering than humans. You're imaginative, Axis, Trazyn the Infinite said, but your logic is sound. Your hypothesis has real weight. If Tyranids needed to consume enormous biomass, would they logically raise a planet to dust as they pass through? Axis asked. That's wasteful. If you need continuous biomass, farming is far more efficient than plunder. A planet can be cultivated to produce biomass for billions of years. To devour a world and then travel light years to the next wastes more energy and time than settling and farming in a resource-rich region. Axis's point was simple. If biomass is the goal, stars make no sense. Stars are energy sources, not biomass. In human history, agriculture overtook hunting because of efficiency. Tyranid behavior did not match that of a top-tier cosmic predator. They never contacted other species. Everything about them was conjecture. Perhaps they weren't driven purely by the need for biomass. Perhaps they were designed for war. In several major engagements, Tyranid fleets bypassed rich life-bearing worlds to strike directly at human forces. If the goal were biomass collection, devouring those worlds first would have been the efficient tactic. Orcs are an uncontrollable army because each orc has its own will, and even their own gods. But Tyranids are different, Axis continued. They are biological weapons. Even individual specimens and the Norn Queen that directs a hive fleet show limited intelligence and no meaningful self-awareness. Evolution alone can't produce such a species. They look manufactured. They're a more efficient killing machine than orcs. That's terrifying, Sanguinius said, pallid. If that's true, then we are nothing more than livestock. One anomaly can be coincidence, Axis said. Two anomalies might be coincidence. Dozens, hundreds? When multiple inexplicable facts converge, even a wild conclusion can be the only reasonable truth. My calculations put this at 99% probability. The Old Ones never truly disappeared. They engineered much of the galaxy, modified species, created civilizations, perhaps even seeded hostile forces. When we fought the Old Ones, we may have already lost our chance. Their webway allowed them unmatched mobility. Even our faster-than-light advances couldn't match them in that regard. Trazyn nodded in agreement. Despite his thieving ways, Axis's reasoning had a terrifying clarity that made sense of too many coincidences. It seems there are still people in this galaxy who can see the pattern, Axis said with a smile. Sanguinius turned to Axis. This needs to be taken to my father-in-law and to all the Primarchs. Axis smiled and released Trezin. After 7 days' rest, during which Axis regained his full strength, he opened the cross-universe passage again and traveled to Holy Terra in that other world to meet the Emperor on the Golden Throne. Beyond discussing his hypothesis, Axis had brought the second Golden Throne to hand over. Sanguinius's return was met with warmth by his brothers. Led by Magnus, they assembled before the Golden Throne. Axis produced the second device and explained its true purpose. Not another throne, but the original instrument the old ones used to create the webway. This is invaluable, the Emperor said. Magnus, you will oversee it. Use it to construct webways for humanity. Very well, father-in-law. I will put it to the service of all humankind, Magnus said. Axis, the Emperor admonished, deliver Rogal Dorn of that other world to his Emperor there. Complete your mission and return quickly. The longer you remain in that universe, the greater the chance they will discover you. They lacked the resources to deal with another universe right now. Intervention would have to wait until Axis was powerful enough to confront the Dark King. The immediate priority was stabilizing their own reality, using the intelligence Axis had provided. They already had Trezin's records from this world and were preparing a surprise operation to retrieve Rogal Dorn. I understand, father-in-law, Axis said, but before I go, I must bring back the Life Goddess. And there's something else important I need to tell you. A secret about the Dark King? The Emperor asked. Not exactly. I've formed a bold hypothesis. Axis proceeded to explain. The recurring oddities across the galaxy, the artificial-seeming pattern of technological peaks and declines among humans, Eldar, and even Necrons, the appearance of Tyranids, all pointed to a single conclusion. This universe might be an experimental ground, and the architects were almost certainly the old ones. The Emperor's face went grave. Axis had articulated suspicions he himself had entertained for millennia. Every time he probed, every investigation had been thwarted by some invisible hand. Axis's analysis sharpened those doubts into something almost certain. More than 20,000 years ago, at humanity's height, I had similar suspicions, the Emperor said. Every probe of the deeper truth met obstruction, as if something else did not want us to know. Your theory fits too many facts. The Chaos God's power is inconsistent with what we would expect. If this is true, the galaxy, chaos, Tyranids, humans, might all be pieces in someone else's experiment. I need to speak with Khorne, Axis said. Khorne is ancient. My chi sense tells me he's a fully independent entity, not merely a puppet. I want to ask when he truly became self-aware. I advise caution, the Emperor said. If the Chaos Gods are products of the Old One's experiment, they're likely monitored. The Dark King may be a program tuned to target me. Perhaps your interference already disrupted it. If you question Khorne directly, you might draw their attention. Axis only laughed coldly. Emperor, we were noticed long ago. They are already watching us. The Emperor fell silent. Maybe this is all in Axis's mind, Magnus said, trying to dismiss the idea. It's extravagant. I don't know their purpose, but I can get an answer from the Chaos Gods, Axis said, and without hesitation, he entered the webway. Through the warp connection he made, he linked to the brass throne. My ally Axis, do you require anything? Khorne asked. Khorne, I have something important to ask. Please answer me. Ask, friend. When did you develop self-awareness? Axis asked. You ask when I awakened, Khorne replied. We Chaos Gods exist across timelines, present, past, and future, but I truly forged self-awareness some 60 million years ago, after the war in heaven ended. That slaughter and the war drove me to self-will. I was the first of us to awaken. Is that so? Axis replied slowly. Then I have a terrible conjecture. Would you be interested in hearing it? Chapter 385, Bringing the Evil God Across the Universe. The subspace vibrates. Oh, is that so? What new discoveries do you have for me? Khorne asked, instantly intrigued. As a supreme deity of the warp, he claimed to know almost everything in the cosmos, yet he knew nothing of Axis, an entity from another world. In Axis, he sensed something that might push him further, make him stronger. You'll have to steel yourself. I need to step into your domain to reach your warp, Axis said. No problem. Come in. I'll open a direct path to the brass throne. Khorne nodded and, drawing on his chaos power, ripped a passage through the webway. Axis shifted into Super Saiyan God mode, Crimson God Chi blazing around him, and stepped into the warp. After a short walk, Axis arrived at the brass throne, a blood-red realm. His crimson aura stood out starkly against the surroundings. The warp was the Sea of Souls. Though the Sea of Souls belonged in theory to the mental plane, physical things existed there because beings from the material universe could enter it. The warp's existence is precisely why many civilizations achieved interstellar travel. Without it, they might be bound to their homeworld until they either mastered faster-than-light travel or of lifespans long enough to cross the stars. Since becoming a god, Axis had been into the warp many times. It resembled the geography of the Dragon Ball world in places, yet remained different. "You've changed, Axis. You're stronger. How long since we last met? Your power has improved again. You surprise me," Khorne said. Chaos gods were said to grow continuously. So long as there was blood, war, and slaughter, their strength would increase. In truth, that growth was agonizingly slow. Time in the warp was not a simple measure. They could not simply outlast rivals by existing longer, or the firstborn Chaos God would have destroyed the others long ago. "Khorne, the situation is this. I have a major suspicion. After speaking with the Emperor, I'm more convinced. Then I came to you and learned about your origin. Now I can almost confirm my theory." Axis laid out his conjectures and the evidence he'd gathered. Silence. The blood-red world churned and the brass throne trembled. The colossal demon on it felt a swirl of conflicted emotions. "Impossible, Axis. You must be mistaken. We cannot have been created by the old ones." Khorne denied the worst implication, but admitted some of Axis's observations. "There may be oddities in this galaxy, things that feel arranged, but that doesn't mean we are their puppets." "Is that so? Are you that sure?" Axis replied. "If you are ancient chaos gods, how many billions of years has the universe existed? Your playground, the four of you, is only that galaxy. Compared to the whole universe, your territory is a grain of sand. We humans once proposed a thought experiment. Imagine ants in a glass tank. Ant scientists see the chandelier and think it's the sun. The glass is their planet, the cover the atmosphere. When the lights go out, they call it sunset and conclude they evolved naturally. This is different. The warp is vast. This Sea of Souls is ancient," Khorne roared. "Deep down you already have your answer. You just refuse to accept it. Otherwise, why are you angry at me?" Axis said. "Then if it's true, what are the old ones doing? Are they keeping us for sport? If they can reach parallel universes, why haven't they explored them all? If you claim all the information you know is just what someone wants you to believe, if even your memories are fake, what then?" Khorne demanded. "Everything about me isn't fake," Axis said. He produced from his spatial stores the summoner that could call forth the Dragon Ball universe's god of destruction and let its destructive energy wash through the warp. The purple power emanating from it unsettled Khorne. The energy felt like something that could kill him, utterly consume him. That was nearly impossible. Warp entities were bound to the warp. As long as the warp stood, they were functionally immortal. "If what you suspect is true, why haven't the old ones acted against you?" Khorne asked. "Because the old ones likely want from me a method to escape, to transcend this universe," Axis said calmly. "A species that has mastered its own multiverse will want to move beyond it. Who wouldn't? After exploring their own sky, how could they not want to leave their world and see what lies beyond?" "Even if that's true," Khorne said, "what's the point? The old ones should accelerate your growth, let you consume the fruit of gods faster." "Then help me test this. If I open a portal to another universe's warp and keep it open for 30 hours, could you pass through? Could you leave this warp and enter another universe's Sea of Souls to meet another you?" Axis asked. "I cannot leave the warp. It's automatic. We can send avatars into real space, but we cannot go there ourselves," Khorne replied. "I'm not talking about real space in another universe, but the warp of another universe. Have you tried that?" "I haven't. I don't know, but theoretically, if it's a warp, I might." "Then let's try." Axis reached out and tore open a gigantic portal, slicing through the barriers between timelines with his god Chi. In truth, the two universes were parts of a greater grand universe, different timelines, but what mattered was he opened a passage into another universe's warp. Khorne scented the other side and rose, intending to cross. An invisible force held him back. "No," Khorne said. "I sense I could survive in that warp, but something invisible binds me. It's like a rule that stops me from leaving, like a leash." "You're restricted because you're not ready," Axis said. "You can survive there, but you must sever your tie to this warp first." Axis stepped close. His god chi intensified and shifted from crimson to a deeper, brilliant blue. Rules were meant to be broken. Destiny must be surpassed. With a violent push of his chi, Axis forced Khorne through the portal and slammed it shut behind him. He had yanked this warp chaos god into another universe's sea of souls, severing his connection to the old one. Back in the blood-red world, the Emperor on the Golden Throne and the other three Chaos Gods felt Khorne's presence snap away as if it had been cut. The Emperor instantly realized Axis had acted again, and whatever Axis had done, it was enormous. Chapter 386, Create a Real Body for Khorne and Get a Sun Axis pulled Khorne into another universe, into the warp of a different reality. This is incredible, Axis. You actually brought me to another world, Khorne said, exhilarated. The warp felt familiar and yet alien. This was not his domain, and in this universe there was already another him. Nothing is impossible. If something seems impossible, it only means you're not strong enough yet. Once you are, there's nothing you cannot do, Axis replied. Khorne laughed, booming and wild. The sensation of having truly left his own universe was intoxicating. From here, he could sense his counterpart enthroned on the brass throne. The other four Chaos Gods could sense it too. Another vast presence had slipped into their warp, an existence identical to the one seated on that throne. But Khorne's jubilation was cut short. A sudden drain hit him. His form began to thin and waver. It was as if the rules of this universe would not tolerate two identical existences. By forcing himself in, he was being erased, stripped away to fill the place of another. Axis, I feel something trying to wipe me out. This warp can't hold me. There's already one of me here. Think of something, or send me back. Khorne's voice went pale. He feared annihilation by some rule-wrought force. To die here with no explanation was intolerable. Don't worry, I foresaw this. Axis said calmly, don't panic. This time, I'll break the rules properly. He stepped forward and wrapped Khorne in his god of chi, stabilizing the massive god. Then, using that same god of chi, Axis carried Khorne into the webway. Axis had not been idle in the time since. He had prepared a special spot deep in this universe's webway and buried a quantity of soil he had brought from the life planet Aisha in his own world. There, he unveiled his plan. What are you going to do? Khorne demanded. I will create you a body. You are a warp-born life form. Now that I've pulled you out of the constraints of that universe, if you can occupy a physical shell, you will be a complete being and will be able to exist anywhere, Axis said. He produced a first-generation cultivator seed, planted it in the imported soil, and drenched it with juice from the mind tree fruit to nourish it. Axis guided the process with his god of chi and successfully catalyzed the seed. The cultivator began to hatch. On Axis's instruction, Khorne poured his soul into the newborn body and took possession. Throughout the process, Axis continually saturated the forming body with chi, strengthening it, while Khorne fed Axis a steady stream of chaos divine power. The two energies, Axis's god of chi and Khorne's chaos divine power, worked together to toughen and expand the shell so it could withstand a god's essence. The cultivator changed dramatically. Its height climbed from 2 meters to 3, then 4, 5, and beyond, soaring all the way to 17 meters. The creature that emerged was demonic in shape, 3-horned crown atop its head, flames licking its crown, a pair of massive wings that when spread spanned 25 meters. This body is powerful, unprecedented, but it still can't fully contain me, Khorne admitted. It was one of the most perfect physical bodies he had ever seen. It rivaled and in some ways surpassed most mortal forms and even the body Axis had once made for the life goddess. Still, it could not hold the full force of a chaos god. Under normal circumstances, the warp would continuously replenish him. Here, outside his domain, containment was essential. I specialize in sealing techniques, Axis said. I can lock away 90% of your essence and energies, keep 10% to control the body. When the god fruit matures, you eat it, and the shell and soul will truly merge. You'll grow into a perfect union. Axis had earlier developed the ability Magic Windwave to seal space Necrons. With a few modifications, he adapted that skill to constrain the power of a Chaos God. The seal was unstable. Khorne could break it if he wished, but it was enough to stop uncontrolled leakage of divine force into this universe. Khorne agreed without hesitation. He entered the body, and Axis gathered his god of Chi to cast the sealing art. The Chi compressed Khorne's chaos divine power into a core, shunting more than 90% away and leaving only 10% free to operate the shell. When the ritual completed, Khorne finally stood in a physical form that could walk the real universe. "Ha! Thank you, Axis," Khorne roared. "Even at 10%, I am unstoppable out there." "Good. Feel it. You should be able to use Chi as well," Axis said. The body was a first-generation cultivator deliberately. Second-generation shells could not survive bearing a Chaos God's power. Axis had important plans that relied on Khorne's strength. This vessel would do for now. Khorne flexed the new form. He opened his hands and a peculiar blood-red energy gathered in his palms. It was not warp energy, but Chi, an evil, destructive strain that fit his nature. "As I suspected, your Chi is like you, evil," Axis observed. Khorne froze. Why did I just call you father?" "It comes with the shell," Axis said with a small smile. "Because my Chi granted you life and the authority to use this body. The construct establishes a filial bond. You'll feel a connection to me. It's safer this way. If you're my son, I can trust you more completely." Khorne bristled inwardly. He hated the idea of being anyone's son, especially his creator. Yet he could feel that strange thread tying him to Axis, closer than his bond to the warp itself. He frowned, but could not deny the usefulness. "Humph," he said, masking his irritation. "So what's the purpose of all this, Father?" "It's simple," Axis answered. "I need to improve. I need an opponent who can match me. Here, no one satisfies me anymore, but you might. We'll train and fight. Your power and this body's potential, strengthened by Chi, will make you stronger. And there's another matter. I intend to take the life goddess of this universe and bring my son back with me. You will help me." Khorne's eyes gleamed. Fighting was his element. A father who loved battle as much as he did made an appealing ally. If the roles could be reversed someday, all the better. "Fine," Khorne said. "I like to fight. I'll help." Chapter 387, Plan and Fight Wits and Courage with the Corpse King, Black King. Using your Chaos God's divinity, you should be able to take a human form. Change back first, Axis said. Khorne nodded, stretched, and a red light flowed over him. In an instant, he became a bald man over 2 meters tall. "This is my first time in a body in the real universe. I'm still a bit unaccustomed," he admitted, then smiled. "But this body feels different. I finally feel like a whole being, not just a chaos god born in the warp." Before, Khorne had been an amalgam of violence, bloodlust, rage, and frenzy. Now he had flesh and a complete soul. It was strange. Almost all the Daemon Spawn had been created by the 4 Chaos Gods and could enter the real universe, yet the gods themselves could not, at least until now. Axis listened and nodded, then explained his plan. "First," Axis said, "I'll take you to this world's main space. The Chaos 4 and the Emperor must have sensed you. They'll try to hunt you down. As before, you'll draw their attention. I'll infiltrate Nurgle's garden and rescue the Life Goddess. You only need to buy me time. After I get her, I'll take her to my universe, use instant transfer to find my son, and then we all retreat." "The plan sounds flawless, but there's one problem," Khorne said. "I can only exert about 1/10 of my power in this body. If I push harder, it might not withstand it and could explode. I don't want the body I fought for to be destroyed." If the vessel failed, his soul would be exposed, and the warp would not allow 2 Khornes to coexist. He could merge with the Khorne native to this universe, or, worse, be devoured and cease to exist. "I've considered that," Axis said. "That's why I gave you a body capable of moving in the real universe. You just need to make trouble here, or in the Eye of Terror, to draw everyone's attention. I also have a pact with this world's Dark King. He will help me stall. If I can get into Nurgle's garden, the Emperor, who is in fact under the Dark King's influence, will take action. He will check Tzeentch. The Eldar death god, who I gave a body to and who has close ties to him, will draw Slaanesh. Guilliman will pull Nurgle's attention. Between those moves, the 4 Chaos Gods will be restrained." Khorne frowned. "The Emperor of this universe is controlled by the Dark King. Are you sure he'll cooperate? Are you sure he won't betray you? Axis had discovered the Dark King's identity only recently. If he'd known sooner, they might have launched the plan earlier, but now he wasn't certain the Dark King would actually help. Axis smiled faintly. He will help. Weakening the four Chaos Gods benefits him too. There is currently no direct conflict between us. He has no reason to make an enemy of me. The Dark King here had evolved over 10,000 years and was not the same being as the Dark King Axis knew from his own world. Axis's counterpart in his universe had been an irreconcilable enemy. There had been no hope of peace. But the Dark King on this world and Axis shared the same enemies, the Chaos Four. Their interests aligned, and Axis had cultivated a working relationship. He had even privately assisted the Emperor and sent Rogal Dorn of this universe back. The Indomitus Crusade was underway, led by his son Kratos and Rogal Dorn, the latter still the Emperor's most trusted lieutenant. Then let's go with your plan, Khorne said. If things go wrong, we'll run fast. I don't want to lose this body. Their relationship had changed. They were no longer mere collaborators. After Khorne acquired a vessel, they were bound together. Axis sent Khorne out to start a diversion and then centered his mind in space. He established contact with the Corpse Emperor, the Dark King, who sat upon the Golden Throne. Axis, the Corpse Emperor said, what have you done? I felt the warp tremble. For a moment I sensed two fears, though one flickered and vanished. That was dangerous. I was conducting a small experiment, Axis replied. I told you I had a strong connection with the Khorne of my world. He crossed over to assist with our plan. The Corpse Emperor was astonished. The Chaos Gods were embodiments of malice and chaos. Friendship was not a concept they tolerated. The Emperor wanted to know how Axis had become friends with a Khorne from another universe. Simple, Axis answered. We just get along. Our temperaments and tastes match, and in some philosophies we align. He didn't mention the deeper reason, the fruit of God that had sealed their cooperation, because he had kept that secret from the Dark King. The Corpse Emperor listened, mind flickering. He had always viewed Axis with a mixture of opportunity and threat. Axis's arrival had upset many of his plans, yet Axis had also helped restore the Corpse Emperor's physical shell in the past by using chi energy, improving what the Emperor already had. That success had given the Corpse Emperor a new plan. Keep Axis close, learn the secret to a perfect body, and eventually secure a vessel that could host his soul in both the real universe and the warp. He had chosen the path of cooperation rather than outright conflict. He had once ambushed and devoured his other universe self and learned much. Now Axis's presence hinted at even grander possibilities. But Axis had surprised him. Without consultation, he had brought in Khorne from afar and given him a workable body. Don't worry, the Corpse Emperor said at last. The Eldar Death God will draw Slaanesh. I'll help stall Tzeentch's response. Guilliman will pull Nurgle. Your bait should lure 4 entities almost simultaneously. Axis smiled. I already created a body for the Eldar Death God as well. These bodies act as warp insulators. Accidents are unlikely. A thought struck the Corpse Emperor. Your method of making bodies is unique. Could you create a temporary physical shell for me so I can act in the real universe? Axis tensed. He suspected a test. If the Dark King had discovered his true aim, he would not help. Moreover, the Corpse Emperor's soul was far stronger than Khorne's. No ordinary shell could house it. At best, Axis could produce a clone-like avatar, incomplete, tethered. An ordinary body couldn't sustain your full being, Axis said. At most, I could fashion something like the Eldar Death God's body, an avatar. That's enough, the Corpse Emperor said. My primary body remains. I'll split off part of my soul and place it in the avatar. With that, I can act more in the real universe. Axis considered the implications. If he helped, would the avatar lean toward him or toward the Dark King? The thought piqued his curiosity, and it could also be a useful hidden card, a surveillance piece at the Emperor's side. Possible, Axis said, but it will take some time. After this mission, I'll help you craft a suitable body. I'll use chi energy to nourish it and make it as perfect as I can. Few days at most, the Corpse Emperor replied. With a suitable body, I could serve you better. Axis hesitated only briefly and agreed. Creating another cultivator body was not beyond him, especially after having just made one for Khorne. I'll need some of your blood. Blood from your original body, Axis said. Would gene seed or Primarch blood suffice? The Corpse Emperor asked. No, Axis said. You must send your blood, or I can't map your genetics. The Corpse Emperor understood. He ordered a tube of blood drawn from his main body. Though the Custodes resisted, they obeyed. He then summoned a living saint, sent her through the warp, and remotely deployed her to Axis's coordinates to deliver the sample. Both men finished the exchange, each nursing secret motives. Axis to see what kind of avatar he could craft, the Corpse Emperor to secure a clone backup if his identity were discovered. With Khorne already planted and delays arranged, the plan moved into motion. Axis stood on a small, strange planet in the webway for 3 days straight. During that time, he ate 2 spirit tree fruits and fully recovered his power. As a Scion, he thought you had to squeeze yourself dry and then squeeze yourself dry again. Only by repeatedly burning and rebuilding could a Scion reach his greatest strength. Each time his god of chi was exhausted and then restored, the recovery came faster and his baseline power ticked up. If he kept training like this, Axis felt he might eventually stop needing spirit tree fruit at all. His Saiyan blood alone could push him through another breakthrough. Right now, after emptying his god of chi, it would normally take him half a month to recover. After using a spirit tree fruit, it took 3 days, and that interval shortened the more he trained. Perhaps after a dozen cycles, he would need only 1 day or 1 night's rest to refill completely. In a decade, his body would adapt perfectly. In a few centuries, he might break through to the next realm. A rift in the warp tore open above the planet. After 3 days, the Corpse Emperor's living saint finally arrived at the webway location where Axis waited. So efficient, Axis murmured, looking up. The Dark King's reach could not be underestimated. He was over 10,000 light-years from Holy Terra, yet he had sent a living saint in 3 days. The rift did not vomit demons or warp storm wreckage. Instead, a cold, pure golden light shone from within it, carrying an absolute will. A figure bathed in that light descended. Golden wings, power armor formed of warp energy, a face set in pious resolve, eyes burning with fanatic faith. It was a living saint, not Celestine, but a sanctified sister forged from the death of an Adepta Sororitas unknown to Axis. She cradled an adamantium cylinder engraved with sacred runes. Inside, a crimson liquid rolled, an uncanny blend of psychic power, will, and raw vitality. Axis had healed the living saint's wounds with life energy and his god of chi. She had sat on the golden throne for 10,000 years, and now returned to deliver what she carried. The holy blood of the great god emperor, Lord Axis, she intoned, and offered the container. By the emperor's oracle, I present this to you. May your actions purify chaos. Glory to the golden throne. May the great god emperor protect you. Axis took the cylinder and felt the immense power within. You've done well, he said. The living saint bowed, and golden light reabsorbed her into the warp. Her task was done. She would not linger. The Dark King's presence, disguised as the Corpse Emperor, spoke in Axis's ear. Axis, what you need is ready. Hurry. I am impatient to have a body that moves in the real universe, to protect humanity, the Imperium, and resist chaos. You'll have to split off part of your soul to enter it, Axis answered. The consciousness can't be too strong. Don't exceed the body's tolerance. I understand. I will split a fragment of my soul and take it as soon as the vessel forms. The Corpse Emperor's side of the bargain was straightforward. The Chaos Gods could easily fragment themselves to create embodied avatars, like making greater daemons. Axis knew the piece the Dark King would give up would be small and recoverable. Axis produced a seed from his dimensional space. It differed from the first-generation cultivator seed Khorne had used earlier, lighter in hue, more suited to planting in the Warhammer universe, but with lower initial strength and plasticity, and it could not use chi energy directly. He dug a pit more than 10 meters deep in soil enriched by the life energy of Aisha's territory, buried the seed, and poured in a concentrated crystal vial of second-generation spirit tree juice. Then he carefully dripped the Corpse Emperor's holy blood onto the seed. The crimson blood soaked into it like a living thing. Patterns on the seed shivered, golden light pulsed. Axis channeled his god of chi into the soil and the seed. The ground trembled. A brilliant golden light, mingling with Axis's power, shot upward and temporarily cleared the webway's usual haze. The seed responded. A colossal cocoon of energy formed. Runic patterns from the Emperor's blood and the golden sigils of Axis's chi fought and merged across the cocoon's surface. Axis guided the incubation precisely, catalyzing the spirit tree nourishment and the Emperor's imprint. Life formed quickly within. A core will carrying the Dark King's cold calculation and desire to control, wrapped in a shell of Axis's god of chi and the spirit tree's vigor. The Emperor's golden psychic potential coalesced too. The cocoon's energy converged into a stable golden egg about 5 meters tall. This is the moment, Axis urged the Dark King. If the Emperor delayed, the seed might birth its own independent soul and become something wholly new. The Corpse Emperor's consciousness split off a fragment and sent it in, wrapped not in raw warp power, but in a golden divine shroud so as not to alarm Axis. Even that small soul fragment had the level of a minor warp god. The egg cracked. A dark gold armored arm punched through, tearing the shell open. Out stepped a near 5-meter-tall figure with bronze-tinged skin. Power armor etched with dark golden patterns that flowed with faint energy streams. Armor as if grown rather than forged. Warp made manifest but eerily effective like that of the Custodes. His face was sculpted, eyes burning with cold golden fire. He bore a likeness to Axis's father-in-law, Nyos, though something shadowed lay deep within his soul. The newborn exuded oppressive majesty, psychic pressure, god of chi fluctuations. He flexed his hands and tasted raw power. The armor, the psychic pattern, the flesh. This vessel had been formed expressly to carry the Emperor's will, and with the spirit tree and Axis's intervention, it was condensed and explosive. Its potential rivaled the Emperor's own body, and in growth it might surpass it. This is a perfect vessel, the Dark King's voice rumbled through the avatar. He looked at Axis with a mixture of scrutiny and satisfaction. The body was flawless, perhaps even too perfect, but for now, hostility would be hidden. He needed more gains from Axis. "You did well," Axis replied with a faint smile. He could feel the Emperor trying to assume control, and succeeding to a degree. But Axis also knew the shell he'd formed with his chi and the seed's underlying commands had woven into every cell. The soul inside belonged to the Emperor, but the shell was Axis's creation and a lever he could use later. Maybe, if he grew strong enough, he could project his own soul and displace the occupant. The thought made him a little amused. "How much power can you exert? Any discomfort?" Axis asked as he stepped closer and patted the avatar's shoulder. The avatar's neck clicked. "It's not my true warp form," he said, voice like struck bronze. "But in the real universe, this vessel can contend with, perhaps even slay, a complete Khitan. Crucially, it frees me from the Golden Throne's shackles so I can move. Now, I will go to the Crystal Labyrinth to divert Tzeentch. Khorne from your world should be causing trouble. Remember your promise, bring out that life goddess and weaken Nurgle." "Understood. Nurgle's garden is familiar to me," Axis answered. "We'll split up. If things go wrong, protect yourself. This cooperation is only beginning." The avatar studied Axis for a moment as if searching his face and then nodded. Golden flames gathered around him. "For the future of humanity," he intoned, and his figure condensed into a spear of light that tore through space and vanished into the warp, heading for Tzeentch's domain. Axis watched him go, a playful smile on his face. "For the future," he murmured, and the gold in his eyes flashed. It might be humanity's future, or someone else's. He wasted no time. A surge of God of Chi enveloped him, and space rippled like water. His destination, Nurgle's Plague Garden. With instant transmission, Axis vanished from the webway. Silence fell again. 2 massive incubation pits remained in the soil, and the lingering scent of divinity and chaos hung in the air. In the warp, the 4 chaos gods felt the shift and grew uneasy. Slaanesh had been provoked by the Eldar god of death. Khorne had discovered another version of himself from another world. Tzeentch now faced the Corpse Emperor's avatar. And deep within Nurgle's garden, Chapter 389, Strike Nurgle's Garden. I want to honor my lady with a thunderous roar. Nurgle's garden shuddered as a tremendous sound split the air, and Axis materialized in a blaze of golden green light. The legendary Super Saiyan aura that poured off him incinerated many of the low-ranking Nurglings and minor demons scattered through the garden. "Nurgle, come out and fight!" Axis's voice became a roar that echoed across the sickly green domain. Cowardice was not an option for a Saiyan. Even when he had only reached Super Saiyan 3, Axis had dared to invade the warp alone. After a brutal struggle, he had broken through to Super Saiyan 4, and now, standing in the realm of Super Saiyan God, he was even less inclined to hide. Stealth was for the weak. He preferred to meet his enemy head-on. Today he would assault Father Nurgle's garden directly. Father Nurgle, who had been lazily stirring a pot of soup and chatting with the life forms in his garden, was jarred by the intrusion. As one of the most ancient and powerful chaos gods, he could not believe that some being would run wild through his garden and openly challenge him. Still, the power Axis radiated made Nurgle sit up. This was a force beyond ordinary demon princes. Warp creatures would have been reduced to dust before it. Nurgle planted his enormous, putrid feet and appeared before Axis like a green mountain of flesh. "Axis, visitor from another world," he said, his voice oddly polite. "The first time we met, I told you my garden always welcomes guests, but your arrival is a little dramatic. Why not come inside? I can offer you a taste of my special soup." At the sight of Axis, Nurgle recognized him. The memories of their previous meeting lingered. Axis had been among those who had once stood against him. Nurgle had even extended an invitation then. This current arrival, however, felt wrong. Axis did not seem hostile by nature, so why storm his garden like this? "Forget being a guest," Axis answered coldly. "I have come for one thing." "Then speak your purpose," Nurgle replied. A dark green aura swelled around him. His earlier courtesy had been the tone of an equal speaking to an equal. If this foreign being refused to show proper respect, Nurgle would make him understand the might of the god of plagues. "I'm taking the Eldar life goddess Aisha with me," Axis said. Silence fell over Nurgle's garden like death. Nurglings trembled and scuttled back. Lesser daemons looked horrified. The Eldar life goddess Aisha had been seized by Nurgle over 10,000 years earlier, a trophy taken when he had defeated another budding chaos god. Nurgle treasured her above all things. She was his most precious possession. "Axis," Nurgle said slowly, "I respected you as a being on my level, which is why I addressed you so politely and invited you as a guest. Had you come quietly, I might have been inclined to let you meet Asha. You could have tasted my soup together. But your demand," he laughed, the sound thick and cruel, "is insolent. I will not allow it." What audacity! It was like a thief kicking down a door and declaring, "Hand over your wife." No intelligent being in the real universe would tolerate such a thing, least of all a chaos god. "Then there's nothing left to discuss," Axis said. "We'll settle it with our fists. If I win, I take the life goddess. If I lose, you may take my life." "Oh, how splendid," Nurgle chuckled. "Die and become my demon prince. I love all life in the universe. You are no exception. I will show you the exquisite beauty of rot and plague." "Then let's begin," Axis snorted. Golden red light erupted around him. Red fur bristled over his chest. His golden green hair went black, and red markings framed his eyes. A shockwave of chi tore out in a ring, vaporizing every low-level Nurgling and minor demon within hundreds of li and gouging away a sticky layer of green earth to reveal the churning pus below. Black hair whipped wildly, red body hair covered muscles churning with explosive power. His pupils burned with pure battle intent. The power of Super Saiyan fused with Super Saiyan 4 pushed to the limit. Nurgle answered in kind. A terrifying dark green godly power spilled from his rotting form, and the warp itself convulsed. "Heh! Such vivid life force," Nurgle purred, "but so crude." He did not step back. Each heavy footfall made the garden itself seem animate. Endless clouds of dark green plague poured off him, taking shape into a tangible torrent of corruption, full of wailing faces, billions of venomous snakes of agony rushing to engulf Axis. The air sizzled, space warped and festered, and a sweet, nauseating scent of death filled the sky. Here in the warp, Nurgle's power swelled without limit. "Ha!" Axis roared, charging. A golden green aura condensed into a colossal fist-shaped shadow and pummeled the plague torrent, physically tearing a gap through it. Wherever the fist wind passed, the garden crumbled, plague fragments scattered like glass, the wailing faces dispersed. Axis became a golden-green meteor, burst through the toxic clouds, and slammed a fist into Nurgle's pustule-covered belly. The impact detonated like a collapsing star. Nurgle's massive belly caved in, a shockwave leveled nearby hills of rotting flesh. Pus and organs rained down. Nurgle only let out a delighted groan. "Oh, such a punch, so full of life's passion. Your strength is formidable." He extended a slimy, moss-covered hand and, with a movement that seemed ponderous but warped space itself, swatted at Axis like a fly. In the warp, Father Nurgle could become infinitely vast and unleash cosmic power. Axis crossed his arms to block, golden-green aura flaring. Boom! The blow struck like a decaying star. Along with the physical force came a vile curse that eroded soul and will. Axis was blasted through dozens of flesh-scarred hills and slammed into a bubbling swamp of pus and blood, disappearing beneath waves of stink. Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 4 power could shatter galaxies, but against Nurgle, most of that force was absorbed and transmuted by the god's corrupting body. The incarnate concept of plague and the cycle of life and decay. Nurgle was an endless, rotting sink. Axis's raw strength stirred up bigger waves of stench, but could not unsettle the foundation. That was exactly what Axis wanted. His Saiyan blood boiled. This was the kind of fight he craved, one where every strike mattered. Nurgle's corruption was potent, but Chi could shield him. He also possessed the god of Chi. "Ha ha! Excite me more, Nurgle!" Axis cried as his body shimmered with golden, green, and red light. "Not enough. Far from enough." Nurgle boomed, and his mountain-like fist condensed dark green divine light, the kind that could infect star systems, and drove down toward Axis. "Tranquility, my head," Axis snarled. "I want boiling blood, not eternal refinement." His power, rooted in his Saiyan blood and elevated by the god of Chi, ignited completely. The violent golden-green Super Saiyan energy was swept aside by a purer, more sacred flame. The legendary wrath of the Super Saiyan melded with godly fire. Axis shed his red body hair and his massive frame shrank to normal human size. His hair turned a deep indigo, like the starry sky, threaded faintly with the golden-green glow of Super Saiyan energy and the crimson blaze of Godfire. He stood transformed, legendary Super Saiyan God Blue, a full mastery of the god of Chi fused with Super Saiyan power. 4 colors of divine light, golden green, red, blue, and the underlying godly hue, swirled and boiled around him. His aura changed from raw violence to something both fierce and majestically lawful. Where his energy passed, the warp's corruption smoothed and stabilized. The filth of Nurgle's garden recoiled subtly. "What? You still possess this?" Nurgle breathed, astonished for the first time. This youth was stronger than he remembered. A joke or a sudden leap in power? Nurgle's mountain-sized fist closing in was abruptly halted by an invisible barrier woven from 4 colors of divine light. His corrupting green energy hit the shield with a hissing sound and evaporated as if ice had met the sun. "Round 2, Axis said coldly. His indigo hair lifted, though no wind stirred. The 3 lights swirled in his eyes. He raised a hand and, with what looked like a gentle push, shoved at Nurgle's gigantic fist. There was no cataclysmic explosion, only the sound of space being compressed and torn by extreme force. Nurgle's fist, the dark green divine light that clung to it, shattered under Axis's push, torn into a sky raining dark energy shards and rotting flesh. "Urgh!" Nurgle roared in pain. For the first time, he staggered half a step back, disbelief carved across his putrid features. Chapter 390, Beating the Loving Father, Slaanesh versus Death. How could this be? He was actually injured, actually scarred. For the first time since his birth, Nurgle, a chaos god, showed disbelief. He had never suffered such a humiliation. "Ah! How dare you? How dare you wound my great body? How dare you harm a great god?" he howled. A sneer tugged at the corner of Axis's mouth. Harm his body? Even if Axis hadn't acted this time, later the Plague, the agents of war, the Emperor, or rather, the Dark King, would use Guilliman's body to maim Nurgle and leave him with permanent damage. Axis's strike was simply more ruthless. The 4-hued divine light he wielded was not only devastating, it also carried a peculiar purifying property that countered Nurgle's laws of rot and decay. Life power from another universe. Chi. When Axis was born, his Chi had been ordinary. After so many years, it had matured into something divine, a god Chi that brimmed with life energy and immense destructive capability. After all, Saiyan Chi itself was born for violence. My turn. Axis vanished. Not mere high-speed movement, but an almost instantaneous spatial leap. The next instant, he was at the side of Nurgle's enormous pus-slicked green head. His fist wreathed in 4-hued flames, gold, green, red, and blue, like a burning comet carrying a purifying divine will, slammed into Nurgle's skull. Arrogant! Do you think you can kill me? I am invincible and immortal in the warp, Nurgle roared. Within Nurgle's garden, countless plague swamps boiled. Dark green tentacles and barbs erupted in hundreds of millions, lashing toward Axis from every direction. Nurgle tilted his head to evade the blow. But Axis's speed and power in Super Saiyan Super Blue reached an inconceivable level. The fist traced a perfect arc through the air, the approaching tentacles disintegrating as they neared the four-hued flames and struck Nurgle's rotten neck, the only vulnerable spot exposed by the tilt. God's wrath, purify. Axis's palm hammered, then a flurry of savage punches followed. Boom, 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 boom. Axis's blows cracked like divine thunder across the warp. Gold, green, red, and blue light erupted at Nurgle's throat and coalesced into a massive, spinning energy vortex that began to tear at his warp form. Nurgle's famously resilient, decay-suffused body was blasted open, ripped by a gaping wound more than 100 meters across. Thick, viscous ichor, rank and stinking, gushed out like a volcanic burst. Plague demons and Nurglings caught within it were crushed and purified in the tidal aftermath. Father Nurgle bellowed in a mix of agony and fury that the garden itself answered. Countless daemons reverted to their primal forms and were absorbed back into him. Weaker creatures were shattered outright. The rotten ground split into bottomless chasms, boiling pus and blood poured back into the sky. The garden collapsed. For the first time, Nurgle's massive body was hurled backward by a power it could neither comfortably absorb nor transmute. He nearly toppled. Axis seized the opening. He vanished and reappeared above the staggering god. He raised both hands, and the four-hued light converged into an enormous greatsword, pure, blinding, unlike anything in the warp, seeming able to cleave star streams. Golden green lightning, red divine flames, and blue starlight braided along its blade, radiating a destructive sanctity that made the whole warp shudder. "Taste my great health sword," Axis said, blunt and decisive. He brought the blade down. Wherever its edge passed, the warp itself was neatly sliced by a dark, eternal rift. The foul rules that sustained Nurgle's garden were torn and purified. The single stroke silenced Nurgle's territory of the warp. All supreme beings watching, whether Chaos Gods or the Corpse Emperor upon the Golden Throne, felt Axis's power. That otherworldly Saiyan had driven Father Nurgle, famed for his defense and endurance, into desperation inside his own domain. The Super Saiyan bloodline, catalyzed by divinity, had erupted with a force that could shake the foundations of the warp. The tide of battle, the moment Axis shifted into Super Saiyan Super Blue, was entirely reversed. The warp's energies were abundant. Nurgle's body reknit and reassembled again and again. With his terrifying regenerative immortality, it seemed only a matter of time before Father Nurgle could turn the defeat around. But Axis's attacks were not empty. Each strike carried the power of a god, and that divine power injured warp gods. Once pushed past a limit, even they could fall. No body in this universe was truly invulnerable. Any existence could be undone. Compared to the cataclysm Axis caused, the other battlefronts were quieter. The Corpse Emperor's avatar appeared to be playing a cautious game with Tzeentch, discussing, plotting, while Khorne, drawn to his counterpart from another universe, sent many greater daemons to hunt him. Those daemons, however, recognized a kin from another origin and hesitated to strike the Khorne brought by Axis. Khorne split his attention, only a sliver of his mind on the duel between the two Khornes, most of it fixed on his otherworld counterpart. Why did that other Khorne have a perfect body? Why could he act in the material universe? He had to seize that form. The duel between Slaanesh and the Eldar Death God was peculiar. According to prophecy, the Death God should have been born within Slaanesh and then burst forth to slay her. Born from Slaanesh, the Death God would, in theory, mean her end. But Axis's intervention had forced Iniad, the Eldar Death God, into premature birth. Though he existed in the real universe, his power was still far below that of a Chaos God. He had, however, a complete divine body that Slaanesh lacked, an enormous advantage. Even mighty greater daemons like Shalaxi and demon princes like Fulgrim could not easily overcome the Eldar Death God's form. "I truly must thank Axis, that entity from another universe," Slaanesh purred in the Eye of Terror. "Young Death God, originally, you and I were fundamentally opposed. Your birth would have meant my death, and it would have been impossible. Who could have thought Axis would pull you out of the void in such a way? You've been born, yes, but your prophecy can never be fulfilled. I am perfectly safe. The prophecy will be fulfilled, only not as you imagine, Aeneid replied, brandishing his divine sword. Your death will come by my hand. My birth means your end. I have the power to slay all things. Ha! Slaanesh laughed, a sound like silk and teeth. At present you are, at best, a powerful lesser god. Even with a body, it changes nothing. You will never dare return to the warp. If you do, I will kill you. Is that so? I possess infinite potential. I can feel this body growing. I will grow stronger and stronger until one day I surpass you and slay you, Aeneid said. Words of bravado. Who didn't speak them? But Slaanesh was afraid. If she were not, she would not be here to meet him in the Eye of Terror. Then how about a compromise? Slaanesh proposed, the offer dripping with perfumed malice. Surrender to me, join my domain, and I will spare your Eldar followers and allow you worship. You won't be my daemon prince or my greater daemon, but a true god under my command. I could even make you my consort in name. After all, strictly speaking, I am an Eldar goddess. Don't make me sick, monster, Aeneid spat, disgust clear on his face. Are you female? You have no sex. How could you marry me? How would you know unless you tried? Slaanesh cooed. It would be only in name. You do what you must. I'll do what I want. Keeping only one gender means losing much of life's pleasures. You would deny yourself the highest ecstasy, the peak of sensation. Enough words, monster. Chapter 391, God-Killing Power, Slayer of Slaanesh. There's no point in talking, you perverted monster. I was born to kill you, and nothing else. I will not make common cause with you. Aeneid roared, swinging the divine blade in his hand at Slaanesh. If he did not strike now, he feared his courage would fail him. He had come all this way, dared to enter the Eye of Terror. He had to try. He had to measure the true gulf between himself and Slaanesh and the other Chaos Gods. Besides, with a physical form in the real universe, he could always retreat if necessary. Aeneid's voice ground like a cold gravestone. The sword in his hand, Silence's end, had been forged from the pure concept of death. It hummed as it pointed at Slaanesh's constantly shifting mass of temptations and horrors. Wherever the blade's edge passed, the sticky pleasure energy of the warp seemed to freeze, bleached of color, leaving only fleeting spectral gray trails. Ah, such tedious stubbornness, my little death god. We had no real quarrel, and yet you insist on killing me. Slaanesh sighed, lazy and cruel. His galaxy-sized form writhed in the light and shadow of the Eye of Terror. Countless faces, some exquisitely beautiful, others grotesque, bloomed across his myriad visages, projecting irresistible temptation and boundless terror that could ensnare any mortal soul. He did not strike physically at first. Instead, 1,000 tentacles, woven from pure sensory experience, unfurled, some exuding intoxicating sweetness, some dripping soul-corroding venom, others shimmering with maddening, ecstatic light. They curled around Aeneid like passionate lovers and deadly serpents, gentle and swift. Feel the pleasure. Embrace your destiny. Become part of me, and you shall know eternal ecstasy. Slaanesh's voice echoed inside Aeneid's mind, each syllable a corrupting enchantment, trying to dismantle his will and ignite any latent desire or fear. Aeneid answered with the cold, final slash of Silence's end. There was no cataclysmic explosion, only the chill sound of death. Aeneid's power embodied the ending of the universe, death in its purest law. The Eldar had never truly known death. Even when they perished, their souls rebirthed in the warp. Before Slaanesh's birth, the Eldar were near godlike, crafted by the Old Ones and almost beyond other races' comprehension. When Slaanesh came into being, everything changed. The Eldar learned the concept of death, and their souls were devoured. Though other races' souls were theoretically consumed in the warp as well, the Eldar had never been eaten before, and they could not accept it. Aeneid's sword did not merely cut energy, it enacted ending, one of the universe's ultimate laws. When its edge touched the sensory tentacles, a terrible scene unfolded. Those pleasure tentacles, capable of corrupting divinity and twisting reality, withered instantly, shriveling as if wax cast into strong acid. Where the blade passed, it left clear, gray scorch marks on Slaanesh's vast, magnificent body, scars without blood, without pus, only absolute stillness and void, as if parts of existence itself had been excised. Ah! Ah! For the first time across Slanesh's billions of faces, real pain and horror flared, not feigned, but instinctive. It was not physical agony, so much as the terror of having a portion of his existential foundation touched, killed. The eternally burning realm of pleasure beneath the gray marks froze for an instant. Sounds of decadence and kaleidoscopic light fell into a suspended pause, then resumed with a twisted, pained keening. This is the authority of death? Slanesh's lazy composure cracked, replaced by sharp disbelief. In the region struck by the gray marks, he felt his power resisting repair. The very essence of pleasure there was corroding, dying. Though these wounds were small compared to his whole, their nature filled him with unprecedented dread. This was a force that could truly harm his origin. Yniad himself might be negligible in raw might, but the law within him was a threat to a chaos god personifying unending depravity and feast. As the prophecy said, this being had the power to end him. The knowledge chilled Slaanesh like a natural enemy. Do you see, Chaos God? Yniad's voice stayed cold, his eyes burning with icy resolve. He felt Slanesh's fleeting apprehension, and it steeled him. He was the Eldar's savior, the retribution of their gods. The prophecy has not failed, only its form has changed. I was born to end you. Every strike digs your grave. You will die by my hand. Slanesh's vast body pulled back a fraction. The decadently twisted expressions on his faces flattened into solemnity. This newborn death god looked like a child holding a poisoned fang, his own strength minimal, but the toxin on the blade lethal. To let him live and grow, especially with a divine body that could move in the real universe, could have ruinous consequences. This child truly could slay him. Damn! Slaanesh had thought that the boy's premature birth had broken the prophecy. He had not expected to still be threatened. Giggle. Giggle. Slanesh's laughter came wet with pain and morbid excitement, and the light and shadow of the Eye of Terror flashed and twisted wildly. How intriguing! Little Yniad, you have given me a delicious surprise. Do you know? All living things feel an indescribable thrill at the moment of death. It is a delicacy for me. His perversity exceeded the death god's imagination. I would be happy to help. Stand still and let me plunge my sword into your skull. Then you'll taste it. Ha ha ha, you don't need to help with that, another voice rippled through Slanesh's chorus. I have savored the pleasure of mortal deaths before. Your followers' ends were not wasted. Slaanesh sneered. Yniad was an Eldar god, the youngest before his birth. And Slaanesh had a unique, dreadful talent. He could devour other gods to become stronger. After his birth, he rose to match the other high gods by consuming the Eldar pantheon. Only 3 had escaped his maw: Kayla Mensha Kane, the goddess of war, Asha, goddess of life, and the laughing Lord Chiao Gaoki. If he could devour this death god now, his power would swell. He no longer relied solely on seduction. That tactic had been blunted by the law of death. Instead, Slanesh's body tore itself apart and reformed into countless sensory abominations: gorgons, sucker-limbed worms, hermaphroditic horrors with 6 arms and 6 joints, pure energy, and twisted souls, each emitting ear-splitting, maddening screams. The death god's power is formidable, Slaanesh hissed, but I can make an endless army of avatars. He shifted strategy, planning to drown the dangerous sapling in a storm of pleasure and corruption, to cut off Yniad's growth before he could master the authority of death. The abominations surged like a tide, each wreathed in chaos divine force that could rot a planet's life. Yniad gripped silence's end. The gray essence of death on its blade burned ashen white. Come then, Slaanesh, witness death's arrival amid your ruin, Yniad bellowed. He became a gray stream of light and met the onslaught. Each flash of death sword light silently annihilated groups of abominations, tearing dead gray scars through Slanesh's corrupted, magnificent storm of pleasure. Slaanesh held the overwhelming position, his offense a ceaseless tide, but every time death's power touched him, his core apprehension deepened. Yniad was like a small boat on a violent ocean, always close to capsizing. Yet the sword of death in his hand was a venomous sting driven at the heart of a chaos god. Slaanesh dared not be careless for even an instant. This was a power that could slay a god. Chapter 392, Killing People and Breaking Hearts. Nurgle's mind collapsed. On another battlefield, Axis had already unleashed a berserk Super Saiyan god mode, beating Father Nurgle into a bloody pulp. Shrill screams pierced the air as the rotund, mountain-sized figure of Nurgle was kicked down by a man glowing with four-colored light. A terrifying shockwave burst from Axis's hand and struck Father Nurgle full force. The great Chaos God howled as the battlefield descended into chaos, residual chi energy rippling through the ruin. Axis's assault was overwhelmingly powerful, far beyond anything Nurgle had imagined. Even with the warp constantly knitting his flesh back together, Nurgle could not keep up. When Axis first broke into Super Saiyan 4, he had been able to hold a Chaos God at bay. Now, after transcending into godhood and blending legendary Super Saiyan 4, and Super Saiyan God powers, his strength was in a different league. The single-minded force of Axis's chi could permanently wound a Chaos God, not necessarily kill him, but continuously weaken him. If the battle dragged on, Nurgle might someday be stripped of his godhood and forced to find a new host. "Stop! Stop! I'll do anything! Just stop!" Nurgle finally snapped. From arrogance and threats to pleading and sobs, the Great Father's bearing had done a complete turn. "How long do you think you could hold out? I expected you to last longer," Axis said, kicking the bloated, plague-streaked god across the ground and then enveloping him in crackling chi to restrain him. For a moment he allowed himself a grim satisfaction, one small goal from his transmigration fulfilled, to beat a Chaos God until he begged for mercy. "Respected Strong One from another world, please, tell me what you want. If you want the Life Goddess, I'll give her up." "She's not my wife. I only wanted her to taste the broth I brew. I'm a good being." Nurgle hiccuped between sobs and shameless pleading. Among the four Chaos Gods, Nurgle fancied himself the most gentle and loving. He had abducted the Life Goddess, housed her in his garden, and insisted she sample his thick soup of plagues, which he maintained was offered out of affection. In his own mind, they were lovers, living a joy-filled life together in a sanctified, isolated valley. Axis stalked to the sealed gate of that valley. Nurgle, trembling and disheveled, used his fading power to open it. The valley resembled the Life Goddess's abode Axis had glimpsed in his own world, the same warped paradise. Aisha stepped out. She looked smaller, more exhausted than before. The plague aura that lined her had not yet wholly faded. Nurgle rushed to her side, tears streaking his face. "Poor Aisha. I couldn't protect you. He was too strong. I tried to stop him. I really did. He still wants to take you," Nurgle wailed, his tone almost delirious. In his mind, the story was epic. He had answered a distress call 10,000 years ago when a purple thing, Slaanesh, was born, slew the newborn, and rescued Aisha to keep her safe. He had made an entire garden to shelter her. How dare anyone come and snatch his beloved? Axis rolled his eyes. That's not how it was at all, he thought. Aisha hated this place and everything in it. She did not love him. "Aisha, are you here to be rescued?" she asked Axis, wary. His power was fierce, but his presence carried an unexpected warmth and life energy that comforted her. If she were spared Slaanesh's attention, being taken by this stranger might be the lesser horror. Axis looked down at Nurgle. "You think I'm here to snatch her? You cannot destroy the love between Aisha and me. We are truly in love," Nurgle said, chest heaving with a mad certainty. Axis laughed harshly. He strode to Aisha, scooped her up, and slung her over his shoulder as if she weighed nothing. "See, she didn't try to escape. She's coming willingly." "You're lying. You steal her from my hands. With your strength, how could she dare to resist?" Nurgle spat. Axis lowered Aisha and addressed her directly. "Aisha, I'm going to take you to a life world where you can live properly. I never force anyone. Tell this dead blob here. Do you want to come with me?" I will. As long as you don't hand me over to the other Chaos Gods, I will go with you," she said quietly. Axis turned back to Nurgle and sneered, goading him. "You don't actually think she enjoys your disgusting soup, do you?" Nurgle faltered. "Aisha, don't you remember our happy life? I built this garden for you. I brewed you broth night and day." The very air of Nurgle's garden seemed to sag with his humiliation. The miasma and rot thickened as the master's grief deepened. Aisha drew away in revulsion, withdrawing whatever faint link she still had to the place. "Please," she said bluntly, "who would want to stay with you? I want to live somewhere beautiful." "My garden is beautiful," Nurgle protested. "I love life. I love life." "I love life too," Aisha replied. "But not this kind of rotting, plague-ridden existence. I don't hate microbes, but I don't want my world to be nothing but decay. Their philosophies clashed. Nurgle's care had always been suffocating, his affection a toxin. After more than 10,000 years, Aisha finally admitted the truth. She did not belong here. Axis didn't prolong the spectacle. "Then we're leaving," he said, and in a blur of light they tore a rift through the warp and vanished. Nurgle collapsed where he stood, stunned and enraged. "You may go," he snarled at their retreating backs. "But this is not over, Axis. One day I will reclaim everything. I will return." Axis laughed and gave a mocking thumbs up. "I look forward to it. Come back stronger. It'll be more fun." Despite the threats, Axis had chosen not to finish Nurgle. Killing the Chaos God outright would take time in the timeless warp, time that might mean thousands of years slipping by outside, and it would serve little benefit beyond pleasing the Dark King of this realm. It was better to leave a wound and a grudge. Beyond this scene, other battles were resolving. Khorne smiled as he slipped away from his furious counterpart in that reality, departing amid gnashed teeth. The Corpse Emperor quietly left Tzeentch's arcane citadel. Yinad, the Eldar death god, who had been struggling against an onslaught of Slaanesh's abominations, made a strategic retreat from the Eye of Terror. "Just running away?" Slaanesh roared after him. "I'm making a tactical withdrawal," Yinad replied coldly. "I'll be back, and you won't have long to wait." In time, the Corpse Emperor, Khorne, Yinad, Axis, and Aisha gathered at a hidden stronghold inside the webway, each nursing their wounds and their schemes, the war far from finished. All three bodies had been grown by Axis from cultivator seeds. Gathered together now, the atmosphere felt strange and taut. Apart from Khorne, who already knew the truth, the other two had no idea what cultivating a body from cultivator seed would entail. Worse, the other two had been given second-generation seeds. Khorne alone had first-generation seed and, like the life goddess, had access to chi energy. His new divine body was far stronger than his original, and though it lacked innate divine power, it could use chi just like Axis. Being gods, they could supply the rest. "It seems our plan succeeded, Axis. You've brought out the life goddess," the Corpse Emperor said first. Axis, the boy, had used those miraculous seeds to fashion bodies for many subspace gods. Even chaos gods from another universe had been given suitable forms that could house their true selves. Axis had kept the best key from him. Apparently his rank in Axis's estimation still wasn't high enough. There was nothing to be done. He was not the emperor of this world. "Heh, there are a few familiar faces among you," Khorne said with a chilling laugh as he looked at the Corpse Emperor's avatar. The old friend, this universe's ruler, was broken, but as a mortal had come extraordinarily far. A pity, though. The Emperor had never met Axis properly. That had sealed humanity's fate, a slow march into darkness and despair. "There's also an Eldar death god besides me, isn't there?" the Corpse Emperor asked. "The feeling is mutual," Yinad replied. "I didn't expect to meet a chaos god here. It seems Axis has allied with chaos from another universe." Axis allied with chaos? He'd even given them more powerful bodies. The Corpse Emperor brushed it aside. He still believed he could defeat the chaos gods. He had sworn to uphold Yinad's determination. He was sure he could kill them. "Enough small talk. I'll be direct," Axis said, turning to the Corpse Emperor. "Dark King, I'm taking Kratos with me. You have no objections, right?" The Corpse Emperor's face tightened. "What are you talking about?" "Axis, the Dark King has already been suppressed by me." "Don't play games with me," Axis snapped. "I'm not subtle. I've uncovered your true identity, and our universe's Khorne is here. You really think he wouldn't recognize you? You think he wouldn't see what would happen if you let me devour this universe's Khorne?" The face of the Corpse Emperor went dark. The worst had come to pass. Axis had found out. "I hid it well, Axis. How did you see through me?" "At first I didn't notice," Axis said, "but you were impatient. When you suggested I devour this universe's Khorne, I knew something was wrong. Devouring a subspace god is the stupidest option. Khorne and I go back a long way. His deepest wish is to break free from the Chaos God's control and be able to move between the warp and the real universe." Yinad's expression shifted to shock. If the Dark King truly manifested, whether in the warp or the real universe, he would be the annihilator of all life. The thought drew Yinad nearer to Axis. "Ah, yes, I was overeager," the Corpse Emperor said, recovering some composure. No wonder Axis had only let him use second-generation seeds. Axis had deliberately kept him incomplete. Even so, with this avatar, he could move and act in the real universe far more freely than before. Combined with his own strength, he might even rival the Emperor of 10,000 years past. So? Axis asked. Will you be my enemy, or will you call my son to you? Humph. The Corpse Emperor laughed. I have no intention of making you an enemy, Axis. I'll hand Kratos to you. I apologize for earlier. I hope we can cooperate in future. We have no fundamental conflict. Axis sneered. You can tell yourself that, but I won't be fooled. As long as you don't meddle in my universe, I don't care what becomes of yours. Ennead stiffened. You can't just abandon us. Do you think our pact means nothing? The Eldar pleaded silently. He had trusted the human emperor to be a god of order. Discovering that the emperor was a chaos god, darker than the 4 chaos gods, was unbearable. No wonder the laughing god lurked in the Black Library. This universe had been doomed since the Horus Heresy and the Emperor's ascension to the Golden Throne. The Dark King smiled. Don't worry, Ennead. Our alliance still stands. I will still stand with your Eldar, and for what it's worth, I may never destroy this universe. Axis and even Ennead were stunned. The Chaos God of Ruin saying he didn't want to end the universe? It sounded absurd. Do you think I'm lying? The Dark King asked. If I wanted to be born fully, I could do it now. I could control the decaying corpse on the Golden Throne, stop suppressing it, and draw power straight from the warp. The universe would burn. But would that be interesting? Would endless nothingness be better than this cesspool of a world? I once wanted a body to walk the real universe, but the avatar I made developed self-awareness and, in a sense, betrayed me. Now I have an avatar that can move freely, and I want to experience life. He shrugged. I looked through the Emperor's eyes, Axis. I saw beauty in little things. I felt human emotions. If I had no such feelings, why would I seize the Emperor's will? I could have left him to do my work. Destroying everything is easy. Anyone could do it. Axis remained suspicious. Nice words, but I'm not so gullible. Believe what you will, the Dark King said. I'll inform Kratos. As for the living Saint Celestine, I've revoked all her powers. You may take her when you please. I'm leaving now. With that, he tore through the fabric of the universe and went. Only Ennead remained, trembling, turning to Axis. Lord Axis, the Eldar god begged, I have collected more than a dozen fragments of Kala Menshikain across the galaxy. At least 80% of the war god's shards are in my hands. A few may still hide in the corners of the universe. I'll set out to find them all. Please, help us save this universe. He truly did not want to lose Axis, the powerful ally who had just bested a chaos god and might be the last hope he could rely on. Chapter 394. Wait, where is this? As for the Dark King, did Axis truly intend to say the alliance between the two races could last? The Eldar Death God did not believe that Axis had no desire to destroy worlds. Gods exist to fulfill a purpose. Without that purpose, their existence has no meaning. The Dark King's mission is the annihilation of this universe, and one day he would try to do exactly that. Whether Axis would be compelled to face him or not, the Eldar Death God knew that if Axis left him alone to contend with the 4 Chaos Gods and a Dark King, he could not manage it on his own. Axis glanced at the Eldar Death God and spoke. Sometimes you must rely on yourself, but don't worry. I always keep my word. If your world truly faces annihilation in the future, I will return to defeat the Dark King. He had to reassure Iliad, otherwise the god might despair and withdraw entirely. Axis was not lying. When his strength had grown, and he had mastered the energy of the god of destruction, he would, no matter what, eliminate the Dark King. The Dark King's existence was an affront and a danger to the universe. What Axis most lacked now was time. Whether to confront the Dark King or to unmask the possible Old Ones manipulating events, Axis needed more of it. Thank you, Lord Axis. With your promise, I can breathe easier. Iliad visibly relaxed. He presented the Eldar God of War's fragments he had gathered. Please accept them. Don't worry, I keep my promises, but you can't be complacent either. I can see your potential. Train harder. With a true physical form, you can break through your limits. In fact, your original level rivals Slaanesh herself. I believe one day you can hold up a corner of this universe's sky. I will, Lord Axis. Iliad bowed. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. Those were not empty words. He would grow stronger before confronting the Dark King. As long as the Dark King did not attack the Eldar, this temporary alliance could stand. They exchanged a few more words before Gilead departed to return to the Death Guard and integrate the Eldar's strength. Axis, the life goddess Aisha, and the Eldar's fear from another world returned to the real universe and began to wait for the Emperor, or rather, the Dark King, to send someone. A few days later, during the Indomitus Crusade with Rogal Dorn, Kratos received an order carried personally by the Emperor. A warp channel was opened specifically to allow Kratos and his wife, the living Saint Celestine, to pass and meet Axis. During the waiting period, Axis first opened the cosmic rift and brought the Eldar life goddess Aisha to his life planet. When the two Eldar goddesses met, the atmosphere was awkward at first, but since both were life goddesses, they had no trouble communicating. Axis replicated his earlier method so that the Aisha from the other world could project her life god star onto the life planet within the webway. Superimposing that life domain onto his own nourished the nascent tree of God tremendously. Its trunk and branches thickened and flourished. The combined life power of both life goddesses greatly benefited the tree. Axis used the seeds of the first-generation cultivator to fashion a divine body for the otherworld Aisha. The Aisha, who had already become a world king god in Axis's universe, stepped forth to assist, lending her divine life force so her counterpart could recover and perfectly merge with the body. "This is incredible. I actually have a body. Thank you, Lord Axis, and thank you, my otherworld self," the new Aisha said. "You're welcome. Now we'll work together to help Axis plant the tree of God. With both of you, it will mature much faster," the world king god Aisha replied. She began teaching her counterpart World King God techniques. The tree's maturation time could be shortened to within 1,000 years, or perhaps even less, because two life goddesses acting in concert were greater than a simple sum. "All right, you two should get along. Khorne, return to your domain and familiarize yourself with that body. I look forward to facing you properly when you're stronger," Axis added. "Understood," Khorne said, taking control of his newly acquired physical form and returned to his brass throne. From that day, he was the first deity to possess a physical body since the birth of the warp. After settling matters with Aisha and Khorne, Axis returned alone to the Warhammer 40K universe 10,000 years later to await his son. Axis had waged a great battle against Nurgle in the warp. Time did not pass inside the warp, but in the outside world, more than a decade had gone by, and the Indomitus Crusade had entered its second phase. Kratos and the living Saint Celestine tore through space and arrived before Axis. Kratos looked puzzled. "Father, why call me here now? The Indomitus Crusade is at a critical stage." The campaign had gone well. The Plague War had been suppressed. With Guilliman's heavy hand and Yvraine's aid, the fighting had been fierce, but Axis's intervention in the warp had broken the back of Nurgle's plan. The Plague Legion had suffered catastrophic losses, and even Mortarion had been taken alive by Guilliman. The Imperium had achieved a victory without precedent. With 2 Gene Seed Primarchs returned and the Emperor's grandson present, the Imperium's morale soared, and they readied expeditions to reclaim lost territories. "There are some things I need to tell you. Come back with me and we'll talk." Axis patted his son's shoulder. "Bring your wife. Let's return to my world first." "Lord Axis, it's improper for us to leave the battlefield now." Celestine looked unsettled. "We are not bound to this world anymore. We have done what we could here. It is time to return to our own home," Axis said. He did not intend to tell them that the Emperor had vanished and the Dark King held power. He could not bear to shatter his daughter-in-law's faith, especially not a living saint's iron certainty. Kratos hesitated. "But we didn't even say goodbye to Rogal Dorn and Uncle Guilliman." "There is no feast that never ends," Axis replied. "You cannot stay forever." Convinced, Kratos nodded. He and Celestine stood by Axis and prepared to depart. Axis drew a deep breath and activated his god of Chi, tearing open a rift in the fabric of the universe. For some reason, this time it felt far more demanding than before. The effort drained nearly 100 times more energy. His reservoir of god Chi emptied like a breached dam. On the other side of the rift, Axis sensed something odd, a powerful suction like the pull of a living black hole. Oh no! Kratos instinctively shoved Celestine to safety, but it was too late for them both. Father and son were caught by the pull. Axis and Kratos were sucked into the void, leaving Celestine bewildered and alone. She stared at the empty space where they had been, dazed. Axis and Kratos hurtled through disorienting currents and suddenly fell onto the surface of a planet. Axis collapsed to his knees, utterly spent. Over 90% of his god of chi had been consumed. If not for his prior training, he might have been drained entirely. "Father, are you all right?" Kratos rushed forward and helped him up. "I'm fine. Wait." Axis's eyes sharpened. Through the haze of exhaustion, he sensed something impossible. 2 signatures of pure-blood scions, and another that was unmistakably King Frieza's energy. Could it be? No. Impossible. Chapter 395. Hometown, Enlightenment, Goku, Frieza, Vegeta. This is the Dragon Ball universe. This is my homeland. Axis's frown deepened. No way, he couldn't have actually come back, could he? After centuries of being transported to the Warhammer universe, Axis had grown accustomed to that life. He had never expected to return to his original world. In truth, he'd never really been to Earth before. When Vegeta exploded, he'd escaped in a spaceship aiming for Earth but had landed on Fenris instead. "Father, what's wrong? You look off. Did you use a lot of energy just now?" Kratos hurried forward to steady him. Axis's expression changed. He looked around the unfamiliar planet. Air clean as crystal, a deep blue sky, surroundings so pleasant they could be an imperial garden world or even a paradise world. Planets like this, if found by the Empire, became protected enclaves and pleasure worlds for nobles. Axis waved a hand to signal he was fine, but he continued to sense carefully. Frieza's chi, he could feel it clearly. The memory of that foul, colossal aura from when he'd fled Vegeta was still fresh in his mind. The other 2 unfamiliar Saiyan auras weren't entirely unknown either. One was new, but the other he knew well, Prince Vegeta. Yet something was different. Both Vegeta's and the other Saiyan's chi carried traces of godly energy. They weren't gods like Axis, but they had clearly comprehended the Super Saiyan God transformation and the later Super Saiyan Blue. "Kratos, remember how I taught you to use chi?" Axis said suddenly, his eyes bright. When they'd been in the Warhammer universe, Kratos had never been able to comprehend chi, a constant regret for Axis. Now, back in the Dragon Ball world, he finally had the chance to teach him properly. In the Warhammer universe, chi couldn't be used, but here, chi was the foundation of everything. Once a being reached a certain level, they could comprehend it. Kratos could already become Super Saiyan 2 and access the golden great ape state. He was ready. "Are you saying you want me to learn chi now?" Kratos asked, surprised. Axis had shown him principles before, but back then it had been to help control his own powerful psychic powers, not real chi. Now Kratos realized something else. His psychic power was gone. There was no warp here. He couldn't sense it or draw from it. Without the warp, his psychic ability simply didn't exist. Axis patted his son's shoulder. "I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want first?" "The bad news." "The bad news is, as you guessed, we've come to another universe. It's not just a parallel branch. Kratos grimaced, of course. An unfamiliar world, no warp, no Chaos 4 gods. "But the good news," Axis went on, laughing, "is this is my homeland, the true home of the Saiyans. You can learn chi here, which is why I wanted you to try." Axis still suspected someone had manipulated their return. The Dark King, the old ones. He didn't know who. But it didn't matter. Home meant he could become stronger, and this world had countless treasures. He'd give Kratos plenty of surprises when he was ready. Kratos nodded and followed his father's instructions. He sat cross-legged, breathed deeply, and began to draw chi from within himself the way Axis had taught him. He felt his cells come alive, as if he'd finally come home. Saiyan cells hungrily absorbed the ambient energy. The laws of this world produced chi within him. Boom, boom. Golden ki flared across Kratos' body. It was the golden light of a genuine Super Saiyan, not a psychic imitation, but true Super Saiyan power. He opened his eyes. His pupils had turned green, no longer the golden sheen from his psychic simulations. "Incredible, Father. I can feel it, chi. My whole body is buzzing," Kratos said, astonished. Even though he was only half Saiyan, the bloodline's aggression and vitality flooded him. Alongside the Emperor's psychic legacy and the Immortal's longevity, Kratos' Saiyan traits now thrummed with chi. Axis hugged him, grinning like a man who'd just won a war. Well done, you finally understood chi. Now we can spar properly. Axis's first thought as a Saiyan wasn't peace or comfort, it was the prospect of a worthy opponent. He could hardly wait. Far away on Earth, a violent clash was unfolding. Frieza had just been revived and had nearly killed Gohan before being met by Son Goku. A deep blue aura and a golden one collided in the sky, Super Saiyan Blue against Golden Frieza. Oh ho ho, impressive, Golden Frieza sneered. I thought my power would be enough to crush you, but you pulled out a transformation like this. Damn Saiyan apes, 4 months of training and I still can't finish them. Frieza, you've gotten stronger, Goku replied, but I've been training too. This is exciting. Goku in Super Saiyan God. Super Saiyan had finally found an opponent he didn't want to hold back on. Frieza was a prodigy to have reached golden form in 4 months. Both prepared to press the fight when they suddenly froze and turned their heads, surprised. So strong, such mana. That chi is stronger than Gohan's. Damn, another Saiyan ape. How many more are there? Frieza's face went livid. He had spent years in hell and learned to sense chi in the meantime. Both he and Goku detected a terrifying aura in the distance. One Saiyan chi, and beyond that, a godly ki. Whis, watching the battle with idle interest, felt it too. A Saiyan's chi was notable but not surprising. The other presence, now that was the chi of a god. Only a true god could radiate like that. If Beerus didn't use destruction energy, he might not be able to beat whoever was out there. Curious. Could this be an actual Super Saiyan god, not just the makeshift one they'd summoned before? Whis, do you sense something? Vegeta asked. He'd felt the powerful Saiyan aura as well, nearly as strong as his own. What I sense is different, Whis said, smiling. You only felt 1 chi, I feel 2. 2? I only felt 1. Ho-ho, little Vegeta, try switching to your Super Saiyan God state to sense them. Only the God state can perceive a god's aura. Goku, suddenly distracted and excited, ignored Frieza and stared toward the distance. He had been able to notice the Saiyan aura earlier, but the godly one only registered when he reached Super Saiyan God form. Frieza blinked. What was Goku doing, losing focus in the middle of a fight? The tyrant teleported behind him and landed a heavy punch in the back, making Goku cry out in pain. Damn you, Frieza! That was an ambush! Goku shouted. Don't twist it. This isn't a game, Frieza shot back. I'm not here to babysit you. I'm here for revenge. I came to kill you. Sorry, I don't have time for that. There's something more powerful over there. Goku's voice tightened as a stronger blue aura flared up. He hadn't been holding back earlier. Now he was going full force. Frieza, even in his golden form, couldn't keep up. Seeing Goku's true strength left him furious and full of regret. He should have trained longer to master golden form. If only he'd had another month. But Goku wasn't interested in giving him a second chance. He wanted to finish Frieza quickly and investigate the divine aura he'd felt. Axis, who could sense the same auras, Whis, Vegeta, Goku, Frieza, tucked a spirit tree fruit out of his spatial pocket and took a bite. With that and a short rest, his lost energy and God Chi would be restored. Kratos, he said, standing, a fight's about to break out. I won't be able to watch you. Remember, don't provoke the blue-haired one. As for everyone else, hit them however you want. Father, do we have to treat everyone like an enemy from the start? Kratos protested. What do you know, kid? This is how Saiyans greet each other. When we meet, we don't talk first, we fight. Axis glanced toward the distant battle, smiling at the thought of future clashes. Kratos fell silent, the golden chi around him thrumming with potential. Chapter 396, Telekinesis and Time Devices Prevent the King from Self-Destructing. Axis's words left Kratos momentarily speechless. Were all Saiyans like his father? Could his father's people really all be battle maniacs? A cold premonition crept over him. He'd never known his father as a child. His mother had been in a coma. Their reunion had come late. By then, Kratos had already come of age as a Gene Seed Primarch, commanding hundreds of thousands of Space Marines of the Golden Legion, fighting for the Imperium and for humanity's glory. He had met his father only after he'd taken his place in the Legion, and the man's personality had been brutally simple. A pure warrior, a man consumed by battle. When his mother finally woke, she had confided more about their race. Saiyans, she said, tended to be like Axis, aggressive, driven by combat, and some were even worse. Axis had jokingly told Kasha that, by Saiyan standards, his temperament was normal. "Don't be nervous, kid," Axis had said. "This is how Saiyans greet each other. After a fight, have a drink and a good meal. There's nothing we can't fix with a fight and a feast." He smiled at his son. Ever since arriving in the Dragon Ball universe, he had been itching to face Son Goku. Goku was the original Super Saiyan, the legendary warrior of the old tales, the benchmark every Saiyan wanted to test themselves against. Axis had trained longer than Goku, boasted the legendary Super Saiyan physique, and refused to rely on God Ki against a foe like Kakarot. He wanted an honest fight. "As you wish, father," Kratos replied. He'd inherited some of Axis's combat aptitude, but not the bloodthirsty streak. Under the Emperor's tutelage, he'd been tempered. He trained, but he didn't crave violence. Still, he would honor his father. "But if they aren't enemies, I'm not really interested in fighting." "You're my son," Axis grunted, grinning. "When the time comes, you'll stand with me. Kakarot has a son, Son Gohan. I'll take the father. You take the son." Axis had a long-standing dislike of Gohan's wasted potential. In his eyes, the boy should have trained and surpassed his father. Kratos, though quieter about it, was more disciplined. He would not slack. Kratos nodded. A spar didn't bother him. No one was going to die. But before anything could be arranged, Axis's expression shifted. A terrifying, planet-shattering energy signature flared across the sky. "Father, something's destroying this planet." Kratos' face hardened. It's being torn apart. My bet's on one of my kin making trouble." Axis's eyes narrowed. "We'll go into space." Axis had sensed the ki of Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza earlier. The signatures were strong. Goku and Vegeta carried traces of God Ki, likely in Super Blue form. Frieza's presence fitted the Resurrection F configuration. Frieza had trained to master Golden Frieza and come for revenge. As a Saiyan, Axis couldn't resist the scent of a fight, but now he had to act. "We can stop this," Kratos said. "I can't draw on the warp here, but my innate psychokinesis is still intact. I'll restrain the source of the explosion, and then use a temporal device to pause time." He tapped a strap at his hip where a compact Imperium Time Tech unit was secured. Humanity's lost sciences and Dark Age relics had produced devices that could pause time within a localized field. Combined with Kratos' psychokinesis, they could prevent a planet-ending blast. Axis thought for a heartbeat, then nodded. Together they launched. On the battlefield, Frieza's maniacal laughter echoed as golden light cloaked his body. "You spared me once, Kakarot," he sneered at Goku. "I don't need to win. I'll make you suffer." "Damn it, Kakarot," Vegeta spat, furious at Goku's mercy. The prince still burned about past failures, where Goku spared opponents, letting disaster follow. Whis stood nearby, serene and unimpressed. For someone of his caliber, a planet was trivial. A flick of his staff could reverse time. But he remained hands-off for the moment. Just as Frieza prepared to self-destruct, a strange golden shimmer wrapped him. A blue beam then struck him, and the detonation energy halted mid-burst as if frozen. Goku's eyes widened. "What's happening?" A calm voice answered. "Don't worry, this gentleman asked me to help." Kratos appeared before them. "I sealed the time around him with a temporal device. I'll use psychokinesis to send him away so his explosion won't affect this planet." Goku, visibly relieved, scratched his head and smiled the simple, honest smile that could melt tension. "Thank you. I thought Earth was done for." Kratos bowed slightly, then shoved his hands forward. He brought his psychokinesis to bear on Frieza, coupling it with the paused time field. The golden-cloaked tyrant thrashed futilely, enraged but immobilized by the device. With a mighty effort, Kratos pushed Frieza through space, past the atmosphere, until the Prince of Destruction was a small, helpless mote near Jupiter. Then the held detonation surged and detonated, a colossal explosion that obliterated Frieza's body. The blast died a cold silence. Frieza's dying roar echoed, a final spiteful curse against the Saiyan race. "Damn you," he spat in his last breath. Axis did not look at his son. He watched Whis instead. He could sense Whis's presence only faintly. Even with his own god Ki, Axis couldn't fully read the angel. That was a fascinating prospect, an opponent whose aura was different from any Dark King or Chaos God Axis had encountered. Goku zipped over to Axis, clasping his hands together in simple enthusiasm. "Hi, I'm Son Goku. Are you a Saiyan too? What's your name?" "My name is Axis," the Elder Saiyan replied. "Like you, I'm a Saiyan. I escaped planet Vegeta as a child when Frieza attacked. You're strong, Goku's excitement shone. You want to fight? Axis grinned like a predatory star. Your strength is impressive. How about a spar? You and Vegeta can come at me together. Vegeta scoffed, pride flaring. I'd never team up with Kakarot. If we fight, it's one-on-one. Axis chuckled. Two of you won't be enough to test me. Chapter 397, The Power of Super. Vegeta collapses quickly. What? Axis's tone grated on the proud prince's ears. The insult hit Vegeta like salt in a wound. Only Whis, the angel standing nearby, showed a small, knowing smile. By his estimate, even if Vegeta and Goku fought together, they probably couldn't force out the true power of this Saiyan named Axis. Maybe Lord Beerus could. I don't like teaming up either. If it's a spar, I fight alone, Goku said, stepping in front of Axis. Even against formidable foes like Frieza, Cell, or Majin Buu, he rarely teamed up unless cornered. Fusion only came when there was no other choice. Heh. I'm not trying to keep you two from fighting, but if you want to know why I did what I did, it's because I'm the legendary Super Saiyan, Axis said. This world's Broly was different. He couldn't use the Berserker form from the movies. Here, Broly could only channel the power of the Great Ape. Axis, however, claimed the title outright. The legendary Super Saiyan? Vegeta snapped. Then I'll be the one to take him down. Kakarot, you just had a big fight with Frieza. You're probably not fully recovered. I'll handle him. Watching Kakarot face Frieza had stoked the prince's competitive fire. How can you do that, Vegeta? You're cheating. I called first, Goku pouted. Humph, you're not in good condition. Go rest and recover your stamina, Vegeta snorted, stepping forward to confront Axis. Actually, I'd still suggest you two team up. This Axis is incredibly powerful, far beyond what either of you can handle, Whis warned. Vegeta only snorted again and lunged. He threw a straight punch at Axis without hesitating. Axis stood perfectly still, ready to take the blow. Vegeta's fist struck his face, and the man didn't budge. Put some effort into it, Prince Vegeta. Didn't you eat? Axis teased with a wicked smile. Damn you! Vegeta snarled, backing away. Power swelled around him. In a flash of golden light, he transformed into Super Saiyan. He flashed behind Axis and delivered a sidekick aimed at his head. Axis casually blocked it with an arm. The impact numbed Vegeta's leg. Vegeta pulled back, gathered a huge amount of ki overhead, and fired the prince's attack. The blast smashed into Axis' position in a thunderous eruption of energy and smoke. Kratos, watching nearby, felt oddly familiar with the move. It reminded him of how his father used it, useful for clearing mooks, but not something you'd bring out against a true expert. As the smoke cleared, Axis stood with his arms crossed, expression smug. That was a cute trick, he said. Don't use petty moves to embarrass yourself. Damn you! How dare you look down on me, the Prince of all Saiyans! Vegeta flared, golden hair spiking and lightning crackling around him as he ascended into Super Saiyan 2. You could have gone straight to Super Blue. In this state, I'm not even interested, Axis said. He seemed unfazed by Vegeta's escalation. You haven't transformed either, have you? You said you're the legendary Super... Then show me, Vegeta demanded. Transform into the legendary Super Saiyan? I'm afraid I might scare you, Axis said with a playful smile. He didn't look like the kind to be intimidated. Vegeta charged, roar exploding through the air. As a Super Saiyan 2, his speed and destructive power ramped up to terrifying levels. He vanished and slammed a heavy punch into Axis's unguarded abdomen. The fist hit with a sound like a hammer on tempered steel. Axis still stood with his arms crossed, not even flinching. The blow did nothing. A violent recoil jacked up Vegeta's arm, agony shredding through his bones as the limb went numb. Ugh! Vegeta grunted, shock flashing across his face. A full-power Super Saiyan 2 attack hadn't even phased Axis. How could that be? Sugoi, this guy is amazing! Goku breathed, eager to get in on the fight. Axis smiled and said, I've let you try 3 moves. Now it's my turn. Vegeta tried to pull back, but Axis's actual speed was deceiving. A huge hand, slower than it looked yet impossibly fast to react to, came down and clamped on Vegeta's outstretched arm. The fingers closed like iron shackles. Ah! Vegeta screamed as if his bones were being crushed. Even his Super Saiyan 2 speed was a joke next to this opponent. Axis's smile widened. The Prince of Saiyans? Is that all you've got? How disappointing. He flicked his arm almost lazily, yet the motion carried an overwhelming force. Vegeta felt himself thrown like a pebble by a giant. He streaked backward as a golden blur and slammed into a massive mountain. The impact obliterated the mountain in a thunderous explosion. Debris and dust threw into the sky. Vegeta! Goku cried, stunned. He knew how much power Vegeta could wield. Nothing could have sent him flying like that. Axis's strength was unfathomable, and he hadn't even transformed. Kratos frowned, watching the plume of smoke and his unmoving father. Something clicked. Axis's fighting style was like teasing a child. His father, whatever his relation, hadn't actually been serious. He was toying with them. Before the smoke could settle, an even more intense aura burst from the ruins, tearing the swirling dust away. Vegeta floated in the air, hair turned blue to the roots, eyebrows sky blue too, blue ki flickering around him. Super Saiyan Blue, he had finally unleashed his strongest form so far. Blood traced his lip. Rage and humiliation burned in his eyes. His pride as the Saiyan Prince had been ignited into a reckless fury. "You bastard! I'll make you pay for your arrogance. Feel the wrath of the Prince of Saiyans," Vegeta roared. Axis finally looked a little intrigued. "You wanted to see the legendary Super Saiyan? I'll show you." He let out a monstrous roar. A terrifying golden-green aura exploded outward. His body swelled. A man over 2 meters shot up to nearly 3.5 meters. Muscles ballooned, hair exploded into a golden-green mane, his eyes turned white, and an utterly feral ki rolled off him. The legendary Super Saiyan had appeared. Vegeta's pupils widened. He retreated from Super Blue, falling to his knees. Something ancient and primeval awoke inside him, memories buried in Saiyan blood roaring to life. The purer the Saiyan blood, the clearer the warning. The aura from Axis was palpably evil and terrifying. "We're going to be killed. We're all going to be wiped out. He is the legendary Super Saiyan. We can't win." Fear flooded Vegeta's heart like ice. Chapter 398, Goku who refuses to admit defeat, Vegeta who overcomes his fear, 1v2. In that moment, the proud Saiyan Prince Vegeta had completely let go of his princely pride and his pride as a warrior. There was none of his usual arrogance left, only fear. His body shook uncontrollably as he knelt on the ground. "Impossible. We can't win. We're all going to die. He'll kill every one of us." Vegeta stammered, terror in his eyes. What's wrong with you, Vegeta? Damn it, what did you do to him?" Son Goku leapt forward, wary, studying Axis. Axis gave off a different kind of presence this time, but as a low-class warrior, Goku couldn't fully perceive the legendary Super Saiyan aura the way Vegeta could. "Don't fight it, Kakarot. We're finished. He's the legendary Super Saiyan, a warrior born once every 1,000 years in our race, the most brutal fighter in the universe," Vegeta gasped. "Damn it, Vegeta! Snap out of it! Are you even the Vegeta I know?" Goku barked, grabbing him by the collar. After just one exchange, Vegeta had collapsed like this. Was Axis really that terrifying? In their earlier clash, Vegeta had been pressured, but after transforming to Super Blue, he expected the opponent to reveal a Super Saiyan form he didn't understand, a monumental fight, an opportunity to judge him. Instead, Vegeta was paralyzed with fear. "I knew it would be like this, Kakarot," Axis said calmly. "Or Son Goku, if you prefer. As a low-class warrior, you can't perceive my power or my aura. Vegeta is different. He has royal blood, the purest Saiyan lineage. He can sense my aura clearly. He can feel the terror of a Super Saiyan." "So that's why Vegeta is like this. He can sense your aura?" Goku asked, surprised. "Exactly. If he can't overcome that fear, he'll never achieve anything in life," Axis said. He had expected that after the Majin Buu arc and the baptism of the god of destruction, Vegeta, now able to become Super Blue, would stand up to his aura. He hadn't expected Vegeta to react exactly as in that old movie. Besides, Axis's strength far exceeded the Broly from that film. In base form, he could easily beat Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, and his Super Saiyan form made his power astronomically high. No wonder Vegeta panicked. In the movie, Broly, after mastering the Great Ape state, dominated Super Blue. Axis was even stronger. "Vegeta, listen to him. Get a hold of yourself. We've faced terrifying enemies before. You never back down," Goku said, shaking him fiercely. "You don't understand, Kakarot. You really don't. We can't beat him. We'll be killed. All of us." Vegeta's voice broke. "Calm down. I said it's only a spar. Don't twist my words into saying I'll kill you or anything like that," Axis said impatiently. He stepped up and plucked Vegeta up by the collar. "Vegeta, He's right, Vegeta. What are you doing? It's just a spar. I'm the one who should be scared, not you. Goku sighed and started forward, ready to face Axis himself. You can go, Goku. It's a good chance to let this guy lie on the ground for a bit. His legs are like jelly, and he's a Saiyan prince, Axis sneered, then produced a fruit from a spatial pocket and tossed it to Goku. Goku, battered from a fierce fight with Frieza and low on ki, blinked. What's this? Are you offering me a snack? But there's only one. Don't misunderstand. It's a miraculous fruit. It greatly boosts your normal state power, heals all injuries, and restores your ki, Axis explained. Oh, like a senzu bean. Thanks, Goku said, taking it and biting down. The second it passed his lips, a surge of life energy rushed through him. His drained ki and fatigue vanished, and his injuries healed. He even felt a slight increase in strength. This is stronger than a senzu bean, Goku breathed. Of course, your senzu beans were grown by Khorne, an immortal attendant on Earth. This was cultivated by the World King God on the World King God planet. What I brought out is a second-generation fruit, a defective one grown on a planet, but still much more potent. The fully cultivated ones are on a whole different level, Axis said. Whis, who had been watching, strode over. As an angel, he recognized the fruit immediately. This is a godly fruit, grown by the World King God, but what you've shown us is a defective variety, cultivated on a planet. I hope you don't grow more of those carelessly. The ripe version can drain a planet's life energy. The places I cultivate are carefully chosen. It won't drain a whole planet. At worst, it deserts a patch of land that recovers in decades or centuries, Axis replied. The second-generation spirit tree fruit was still powerful but not world-devastating. When you're done fighting, we'll talk about it, Whis said, inspecting the fruit. It truly was flawed, yet not entirely harmless. Ready now, Axis? Goku stretched, bouncing on his feet. Of course. Use your full strength. Don't be like Vegeta and test me bit by bit. You've already seen enough. Remember, Legendary Super Saiyan is not even my strongest transformation. I can also go Super Blue. Whether I do depends on whether you force me, Axis replied. Is that so? Then I won't hold back, Goku roared. Blue Ki flared around him as he pushed to his strongest form. He wouldn't waste time with Super Saiyan 1 or 2. He wanted to draw out Axis's full power. Axis smirked, impressed by the display, and casually beckoned. Come on. Goku vanished in an instant, his super blue speed and power staggering. In a blink, he reappeared and a full-powered punch slammed into Axis's chest. The compressed air screamed as the blow landed. Bang! The impact hit like a drum, sending a shockwave that dug a crater into the ground. Yet Axis didn't budge, and his golden-green aura didn't flicker. He looked down at Goku's fist and smiled. Good power, and fast, but not enough. A flicker of astonishment crossed Goku's face, but it turned immediately into renewed determination. You're strong. Try this. He spun, his right leg a whirling battle axe aimed at Axis's neck. Axis casually raised his left arm to block. Clang! Goku felt a jarring pain shoot up his leg as the kick was repelled, and the recoil sent him flying backward. Kakarot, show me the spirit you had against Frieza and the God of Destruction. Let me see your limits, Axis demanded. As you wish. Goku steadied himself midair, drew a deep breath, and cupped his hands at his waist. Blue Ki roiled and compressed into a blade of light, singing through the air. Kamehameha! A super blue Kamehameha surged toward Axis, far more powerful than anything the prince had used earlier. Axis watched with a faint smirk. A bit interesting. Without dodging, Axis met the beam with a single punch. His fist, wrapped in that golden-green aura, shattered the Kamehameha as though it were glass. What? Goku kept his firing stance, pupils narrowed, sweat beading. His full-powered super blue Kamehameha had been stopped with one hand and destroyed. Axis sneered, crossed his arms, then appeared behind Goku and shoved him with a side kick. He flashed to the other side and attacked again, using nothing but kicks to batter super blue Goku into helplessness. Goku squinted, studying Axis's movements and attack patterns. After an uncounted number of strikes, he finally grabbed Axis's leg. Haha, I caught it. Not bad, here's a punch for you. Axis smiled and a straight blow sent Goku flying again. Goku lifted his head, a rueful smile on his face. The gap between them was huge. Still, he got to his feet, swaying, and faced Axis. Kakarot, what are you doing? Stand firm. We'll take him down together. A roar like a wounded beast tore out from the ruins. Vegeta, Get up, this fight's not over. This isn't the Kakarot I know, Vegeta bellowed. Being oppressed so easily, and feeling that legendary Super Saiyan presence in the enemy like something clawing at his blood, Vegeta's fighting spirit had nearly died. But to see Kakarot, the low-class warrior he'd pursued his whole life, the rival he both scorned and had to accept, repeatedly charging that legend without backing down, even after being pummeled, something ignited inside him. Royal pride, warrior's dignity. To be trampled so easily was intolerable. Ah! Vegeta's eyes went bloodshot as an earth-shattering roar erupted from his chest. He forced himself to kick the fear out of his bones, channeling humiliation and fury into power. Blue Ki surged up again, brighter and more concentrated than before. He wrestled free from the terror of the legendary Super Saiyan and transformed into Super Saiyan Blue. Axis, you bastard! Don't get cocky! I am the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta! Axis only smiled. He tossed 2 second-generation Spirit Tree fruits to the pair. They were a bit weak, he thought, but at least the Saiyan pride remained. Goku ate his fruit and stabilized. Super Blue Ki flared anew. He flashed to Axis's other side, and together with Vegeta, they formed a pincer attack. Warm-up's over. Now I'm getting serious. Ha! Axis struck out to both sides at once. No flashy technique, just raw, overwhelming power released in the most domineering way. Boom! Axis grabbed both their necks and began to beat them. Goku and Vegeta could only struggle with everything they had. In the distance, Whis clapped softly, a knowing smile on his face. What astonishing power! Universe 7 seems to have acquired a remarkable guest. Chapter 399, Hairless Cat, Let's Fight, Extreme Squeezing. This guy really is powerful. My hands are itching. I want to jump in and fight. Lord Beerus, the god of destruction, had appeared beside Whis before anyone noticed. Lord Beerus, you'll certainly be interested in him. He's a true legend, the Super Saiyan god. He should be the opponent you've been dreaming of, Whis said with a smile. Humph. He does look like a Super Saiyan god. I'll be his opponent later. Beerus replied. This was the opponent he'd been matched with in his dreams, the one he had gone to a stalemate with countless times. Kratos glanced at the hairless humanoid cat in front of him. If this being were from their world, he'd be nothing short of an alien. Kid, what are you looking at? Beerus asked, digging at his ear and eyeing Kratos. Kratos' gaze carried a hint of disdain, bordering on outright contempt. Humph, alien. You aren't worthy to fight my father. I can handle you, Kratos snorted. His father had explicitly told him to avoid interfering with the 2 opponents who turned blue, but this hairless cat didn't look like one of them. Besides, he was an annoying alien, so Kratos decided he could fight. Hey, kid. Alien isn't a very polite word, is it? Beerus said, not pleased. Then how about I call you a hairless cat? If that offends you, come fight me one-on-one, Kratos shot back. He was deliberately provoking, imitating his father's goading tactics. If you want to fight, go get one. Hairless cat, what? You brat, I'm going to destroy you, Beerus snarled, eyes narrowing. Oh my, Lord Beerus, please be merciful. This young man isn't bad, he's just defending his planet. Don't hit him too hard, just teach him a lesson, Whis interceded. This person was important. Beerus couldn't act recklessly. He wasn't even from this universe. Humph. Fine, I'll use him for warm-up. Come on, kid, Beerus said. Chich, hairless cat. This old man was going to beat the sense out of this kid and show him not to call Beerus names. Then I'll teach you a lesson, hairless cat. Kratos sneered and followed Beerus. The 2 flew off toward another battlefield. At the same time, Axis didn't know his son was provoking the god of destruction. He was having too much fun fighting elsewhere. Bang! 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 The sky tore with explosions as 2 blue figures and 1 golden-green figure clashed continuously. Axis was surprised to see the 2 fighters he'd initially overwhelmed growing stronger by the minute. From being unable to resist at all, they were now barely blocking his attacks by cooperating. Ah! This is what Saiyans do, constantly improve in battle, Axis thought. He pushed his power higher. Golden-green ki burst out of him like a jet. Blue lightning danced over his body, his hair bristled, and he activated a stacked Super Saiyan mode. His power surged again. Once transformed, Axis's combat strength doubled, and he pushed Goku and Vegeta down. Damn it! How strong is this guy? Vegeta shouted. I said, can you take it easy? Goku pleaded, but Axis's punch cut him off. I already showed mercy, Axis declared. After a barrage of blows, Goku and Vegeta were battered, black and blue, broken in countless places, on the brink of death. They hadn't used the Saiyan passive near-death revival in a long time, had they? Axis grinned and decided to help. "Open your mouths." Axis barked, producing 2 spirit tree fruit and roughly shoving them into Goku and Vegeta's mouths. These were first-generation golden spirit tree fruit, the best he had. Gulp, gulp, they swallowed. Their wounds healed instantly, and their power surged again. "All right, be men about this. Honestly, I've never triggered the Saiyan near-death boost to the fullest. Please, you two, get stronger so I can experience being beaten half to death." "I want to know what that feels like," Axis said with a punchable expression. "You bastard," Vegeta snarled. He sounded like he wanted to kill Axis for forcing that situation, the implication being Axis had engineered their power spike just to get a better fight. Typical Saiyan behavior. Vegeta remembered similar recklessness from the past. "Sorry our strength didn't make you use everything, but after near-death revival, a Saiyan's power surges. Next, Vegeta and I will see earth-shattering growth," Goku said, standing and stretching. He'd almost forgotten how much near-death revival could enhance him since his fight with Frieza. "We're Saiyans. You know what I'm like. Don't hold back. Hit me as hard as you can," Axis urged. "Then we won't be polite," Goku said. "Thanks to you, I can try a technique I've wanted to test." "Kakarot, what are you hiding? You didn't use it earlier," Vegeta grumbled. "Sorry, Vegeta. I couldn't perfect it before. Using it used to strain my body, but after the near-death boost, I can handle it now," Goku replied. "What move?" Vegeta asked, frowning. "A move I learned long ago. You were the first to feel its true power back then. Kaioken!" Goku clenched his fists. Crimson energy flared and wrapped his blue aura. This red energy wasn't Super Saiyan God power. It was Kaioken. Seeing it, Vegeta's mind flashed back over a decade, to when he first arrived on Earth and was outmatched by this low-class warrior. That memory had sparked his lifelong pursuit. "Not bad. How many times can you stack it now?" Axis asked, eyes shining. "A multiplier technique. Now that was valuable. He'd have to learn it later." "I estimate up to 20 times. That should be enough," Goku said. That had been his trump card prepared for Lord Beerus. "I see. Vegeta, any new moves? As Saiyan Prince, you can't be this ordinary." Axis prodded. "You'll see, bastard. I'll show you my power," Vegeta snapped, though he secretly admitted he hadn't developed any major new techniques in recent years. Axis smirked. Maybe he could push Vegeta to evolve his Super Blue into something deeper. "Come on," Axis roared. The ground cracked beneath him as he surged forward and punched Kakarot. This time the blow wasn't overpowering. Goku caught Axis's punch with one hand. "Axis, don't underestimate me. I'm a Saiyan. S-rank improvement after near-death revival is obvious," Goku chuckled, then hopped up Axis's arm and kicked him in the face. The kick sent Axis flying through jagged mountain peaks. That kick had power. Axis spat blood but grinned. The protagonists of Dragon Ball always delivered. He stabilized and pushed his power further. His hair grew long, his eyebrows vanished, and he transformed into Super Saiyan 3. 2 figures, the red of Kaioken and the blue of Super Saiyan, charged at Axis, alternating offense and defense with uncanny coordination. Even in SS3, Axis could only hold them to a draw for a while. As the fight wore on, Goku and Vegeta adjusted to his attacks and slowly gained the upper hand. "Haha, not bad! Then I'll show you another form!" Axis forced them back and began to transform again. Red light flickered over him, red fur covered his upper body, his tail swished, his hair went black and red eyeshadow appeared. The transformation radiated primal ferocity and raw power. "What is that?" Vegeta asked, shocked. "This is Super Saiyan 4, the release of the Saiyan's most primitive power, achieved through Great Ape transformation. If you want, I can teach you," Axis said. Vegeta considered it. He could theoretically maintain his mind during a Great Ape transformation and reach Super Saiyan 4, and maybe go even further. Chapter 400, Pull Out Your Tail. Vegeta Muzan, Vegeta's and son Goku's tails were gone. For some unknown reason, ever since they'd come to live on Earth, the Saiyan tails seemed reluctant to grow back. "Great Ape transformation, Super Saiyan 4? Axis asked. "That's right. Have you two forgotten the core of Saiyan power? The tail, the Great Ape form, that's where our strength starts," Axis explained. Goku listened, baffled. The Great Ape form was that powerful? He had only become a great ape once as a child, and the memory was horrible. He'd accidentally crushed his grandfather. After that, when World King God saw his tail, he removed it, and it had never grown back. I know the tail is the source of a Saiyan's power. How does the transformation work? Can you teach us? Vegeta asked. Axis laid it out. The method is simple, but there's a prerequisite. Your Super Saiyan state must already be maxed. If you haven't reached that limit, you can't become Super Saiyan 4. First, you must transform into a great ape by looking at a moon. Then you become a golden great ape. Your fur turns gold because it's a great ape in Super Saiyan state. While in that form, you must regain clarity of mind, control the great ape's power, and fuse it with Super Saiyan energy. That gives you Super Saiyan 4. It sounds simple, but can you really stay sane in great ape form? Goku scratched his head. Low-class warriors like you usually can't, but I am high-class, royal blood. I kept my mind when I first turned into a great ape on Earth. You remember how I crushed you back then? Vegeta reminded him. If Super Saiyan 4 were truly that straightforward, Vegeta thought he should be able to reach it. Oh, that's right. I remember now, Goku said. When you first came to Earth, you transformed and were unstoppable. If Yajirobe hadn't ambushed and cut off your tail, it would have gone very badly. But Vegeta, your tail never grew back either, Goku added, glancing. 2 things are needed to turn into a great ape, a moon projection to look at, and a tail. The moon was easy, Earth has one, and if necessary, Vegeta could create an artificial one with Ki. The tail, though, was a problem. It's strange, Vegeta frowned. Ever since I settled on Earth, my tail hasn't come back. That's abnormal. Logically, a Saiyan's tail should regrow even after being severed. Even though he'd mastered Super Saiyan power, Vegeta hadn't tried turning into a golden great ape to fight in that state. Theoretically, it would be stronger. So what do we do? Does that mean we can't become Super Saiyan 4? Goku asked. He could feel Axis's ki, raw, wild, and ferocious, on a different level entirely. Even Super Saiyan Blue with full power and the 20x World King Fist wouldn't be enough to beat Axis. Kakarot and I probably can't transform into Super Saiyan 4, Vegeta said. I can make a full moon, but we can't do anything about the tail. Axis smiled. Don't be discouraged. I can help your tails. You can make our tails grow back? Vegeta's eyes lit up. If he could get a tail, he was confident he could become Super Saiyan 4. He didn't care much whether Kakarot got it. He wanted it for himself. Of course. Now take off your pants, Axis said. Both Vegeta and Goku stared in disbelief. Take off our pants? Why? It's simple. You have to pull your tails out. So take off your pants and find a large pair of pliers, Axis said with a mischievous grin. Goku. Vegeta. They both immediately suspected malicious intent. You're serious this will work? Vegeta demanded. Stop whining and trust me. My method is reliable. Go get a big pair of pliers. I'll clamp the base of your tails and pull them out myself, Axis said. He pointed out that in the oldest Dragon Ball GT origin, Goku became Super Saiyan 4 after his tail was pulled out. The same method was used there, so it was tried and true, supposedly devised by the Old World King God. All right, Goku decided, choosing to believe him. In an instant, he teleported home, startling Chi-Chi, burst into the tool room, grabbed a giant pair of pliers, then vanished back. I brought them. Let's do this. I can't wait to see Super Saiyan 4, Goku said as he returned. Now take off your pants and stick your butt out, Axis instructed, holding the pliers. Both Saiyans were bashful. Kakarot, you go first, Vegeta quickly offered. Don't be sly, Vegeta. You can handle it better than I can. You controlled the great ape when you turned. You go first, Goku protested. All right, fine. Vegeta took a deep breath, dropped his pants, and turned to show the base of where his tail would be. Axis's smile grew wider. He clamped the base with the pliers and grabbed Vegeta by the neck with his other hand. It might hurt a little. Bear with it. Then he yanked. Vegeta's scream tore through the sky, shaking clouds. He clutched his backside and howled, an agonized, heartbreaking sound. What's all the screaming about? You're an adult. It's just pulling a tail, not cutting you in half, Axis said, annoyed. Try it yourself, Axis, then you'll know how it feels. Vegeta wailed, clutching himself. As they say, no pain, no gain. If you want Super Saiyan 4, a little suffering is part of it. Look, your tail came out. Axis pointed. A black tail more than a meter long trailed behind Vegeta. Somehow it had been tucked entirely inside him. Kakarot, my tail's out. Your turn. After your tail's out, I'll make the artificial moon, Vegeta said. Could you teach me how to hold on to my mind when I transform? Goku asked. I'm scared I'll go berserk in great ape form. Shh, fine, Vegeta explained. The trick is power plus clarity. Once transformed, a Saiyan's wildness explodes. You must learn to suppress that instinct so you can control the form. Low-class warriors can learn. Raditz and Nappa could. The method is like this, then like this. Vegeta demonstrated briefly while Axis listened carefully. After the quick lesson, Goku was eager. Go ahead, Axis. Pull mine. Axis clamped the base of Goku's tail with the pliers, yanked, and another piercing scream split the air. Goku howled just as Vegeta had. I'll create the artificial moon, Vegeta said, readying to summon it. But before he could, the three of them noticed an artificial moon had already appeared silently in the sky, and a distant great ape roar thundered back. Someone, Kratos, had already transformed. Who was he fighting?